Let's go. Free Agency live, presented by Washed Media. I'm excited, boys. This has been a wild morning so far. The clock has just hit noon Eastern. Free Agency is wide open, and we're getting ready to go. I got DJ, I got Jimmy, I got NRD. Great crew today. Some guests popping in. We'll have Tara from the Glove Drop, potentially Lance from Buffalo News. We'll see. We'll see what's going on here. Jimmy, what do you make of this morning so far?
I'm a little worried because I feel like there's just been so much going on, and now it's noon. It's like, what else is there going to be going on? It's like there's been a ton of stuff going on. Where's Jack Eichel going? Right here, hopefully. If not, I'll be crushed. We'll figure it out. So, Brett, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be back.
DJ, you missed out on the Blake Coleman sweepstakes over there in Boston. Is David Krejci the next best thing?
I apologize. There's champagne all over this room from having missed out on the Blake Coleman sweepstakes. David Krejci has to happen, man. And people in Boston are like, do you just bring the band back together? Is that really enough when you're not going to beat the Lightning? It's like, obviously not. But you have drafted so poorly that if you don't bring back David Krejci, you're kind of a mess down the middle. So they have to bring back David Krejci. They have to get somebody. Like they also, I mean, they need right now, if you say David Krejci is on their roster, they need a number 2 center and they need a top pairing left shot defenseman, which those things don't fall to trees. So I ultimately think no matter what the Bruins do, they're probably going to end up in the same position they were in last year, which is like just be, and you'll be one of the better teams in the league. If anyone calls you a cup favorite, they've misunderstood. And that's what the case was last year.
NRD, you are the insider, to quote a friend of ours. What do you make of this morning so far, and what are the vibes on your end over there?
A lot of action this morning. The vibes on my end is, I'll tell you this, there's still some big names out there. Jack Eichel obviously is looming, right? We have a feeling that push is going to have to come to shove today, if not within the next couple of days. So that's still looming. We're still going to talk about that. A lot of goalies still out there. I know a lot of goalies signed this morning. Still have Darcy Kemper in Arizona. I think the Edmonton's pushing really hard on him, but we still got plenty to talk about. Just because TSN and Sportsnet had their little half an hour head start, their day in the sun on us, we still got plenty to talk about here on Wash Media.
Can I jump in with some breaking news? Not to steal your job.
Go
Brett.
for it.
I don't know if anyone's going to care about this. Sean Corali got a 4-year contract from the Blue Jackets, which Blue Jackets made all the sense in the world for Sean Corali just because he's from there. But holy smoke, why is Sean Corali getting a 4-year contract?
4 years
because
of
they can't sign anybody else.
That's probably it, honestly.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to play there. Fucking Werenski's the next one out the door.
Yeah.
But speaking of breaking news, Brian Elliott, another goalie off the goalie market, heading
Tampa.
to
Tampa.
Yep, Tampa. Excuse me. I was going to say Vancouver.
Yep, you're good. 1 year, $900K.
Boom. Things are flying.
Tampa's not done.
Carolina.
Tampa has a 1-year deal with Corey Perry in the works. I don't know if that's final yet. We're waiting. But they've been working on that for a couple of days now. I had heard it. The fourth period had heard it yesterday. But, yeah, Tampa's still working on the Corey Perry deal.
I'll tell you what, Corey Perry is such a Tampa, like Patty Maroon Cup winner in like summer of 2022. Granted, their whole third line is gone, and everybody's like, oh, the third line of Tampa is the one that's getting them through these the playoff games, and they're so tough and they play with such speed, and now they're all gone. So Matthew Joseph, I don't know if he replaces all three of them, but I guess we'll see in Tampa. How about that Tyler Johnson move they made?
Yeah, people were freaking out a little too much about that, I think that every time Tampa does anything involving money, the meltdown is so absurd. And it's like, you are allowed to trade for guys on LTIR. And the purpose of that deal wasn't to like pull a fast one with Brent Seabrook. The purpose of that deal was Tyler Johnson makes $5 million and our cap is a disaster. We would like to not have Tyler Johnson anymore. And I don't know. I feel like in my old age, I'm becoming a Tampa defender because everyone cries about the Lightning and their cap situation so freaking much. But like, that was a fine, like smart move that every team in the NHL should have made.
100%. 100%. I love that Brent Seabrook's name's still getting kicked around too.
Dude, I love that. I love that Brent Seabrook's going to Tampa, and now he's going to make an additional like $1 million just not paying taxes.
Oh, good call.
Like, that's huge. Can you imagine the phone call he got? He's like, "Let's go, baby, huh?"
Oh man.
Really quick, Drager on TSN. No free plugs to other shows, but he talks about, to paraphrase, Jack Eichel has become the forgotten superstar on the market. Many teams interested as tire kickers. Nothing imminent. The frustration level is increasing from Eichel's camp. So that aligns up with what we heard from Michael Russo, the Athletic, talk about the Wild being out on the price. That aligns with everything we heard about the New York Rangers, just basically saying, listen, we have our limit. We don't want to go over it. And now the Eichel camp is banging on doors in Pagula's headquarters, trying to get out of there, but it doesn't look imminent right now, according to Darren Dreger.
Can I ask a controversial question about Jack Eichel? And I like Jack Eichel. Jack Eichel, friendly, nice kid. His agent's a really good dude. At what point are teams looking at him with maybe some makeup questions, if not already? I feel like people just kind of overlook that. Like, hockey is kind of so archaic that it's like, if you're in a bad situation, well, son, it's on you to make it work. And if you're not fixing it, then you're part of the problem. Like, not to say that it's like Taylor Hall in Edmonton, but I bet teams, when they're making calls on Jack Eichel, are like, what are we going to get makeup-wise from this kid right now? Which obviously wasn't a question when he got drafted, and maybe Buffalo will do that to you, but I think that at least some of it has to be on him.
So I'll play the Eichel defender here, unbiased, of course. I know the way that Jack has been talked about in that organization. I know the way he's carried himself. He is at his core a great dude.
Yeah.
He has been probably jaded by any number of coaches. I think Phil Housley plays a big role in that. He is at his core. He wants to win. He's competitive. He wants to win. There's another player that has recently departed Buffalo. There's two of them. I'll let you guess which one, who was kind of a dick the whole time. That doesn't get reported a whole lot. And I think the way those two sort of Batman and Robin with each other, it kind of became a locker room, a locker room show that wasn't reflecting well on the younger guys, and the older guys were kind of just like, all right, fuck this dude. I think he was given the captaincy too early. I think there was no leader to lead him in the right direction. He's only 24 right now. He's been the captain for like 3 years. And I think that was the problem. I think he was never given a guy besides Jeff Skinner. When Jeff Skinner played with Jack Eichel, Skinner put up 40 goals. And they broke those two up. So then Jack's like, what the fuck am I doing? And I think it's just time. He's ready. Fresh start. I don't think there's any character questions. I think the biggest question is his neck. He's skating right now, but the Sabres won't open up his medical records to anybody unless they say they're dead serious about trading for him. And then unfortunately, it's can he be 100% by the start of the season? That's not going to happen if he gets surgery now. So that window is closed. So Eichel, wherever he goes, is going to start the season on IR if he gets the surgery. That's why I've heard the Colorado Avalanche, Landeskog signing there makes it much harder. But if you don't have Eichel's cap hit on the books to start the season, guess what? It works. So we'll see. It's going to be a fun day. I think Jack gets moved today.
I think in terms of just like being a hockey fan, like you would think that the player and the team would always kind of have like a mutual respect kind of thing. It seems that Eichel is, he's wanted to get out of there. And as a fan, you can be like, well, what's that about? You're a captain, like you're supposed to be there. But then you see shit like yesterday with Vegas just trading Fleury out of nowhere, Fleury not knowing it's going to happen. Like at the end of the day, we kind of have to hit a reset button and realize like it is a business, man. Like, and if this guy wants to win, right, he's not going to win in Buffalo anytime soon. How long has this rebuild been going on for? Since like a Finneganoff? Like it's been a really long time. Like he wants to get out, and
it's since that scumbag Lucic. Since that scumbag Lucic ran Ryan Miller in 2011. That's how long this thing's been going on.
Was that Paul Bostad who they sent out? That poor guy. Where
yeah,
they're like,
dude.
Okay, somebody's got to go fight Lucic now, and he's like, son of a bitch.
That was the most outrageous game. I remember after that game. So Milan Lucic projects very well very, very, very loud voice. And there was a huge scrum for him after that game, obviously, because people were freaking out over how he ran Ryan Miller. And I was like, I'm not going to get anywhere near this scrum. There's too many people. I'm going to go talk to Tim Thomas about, like, hey, were you ready for someone to, like, come after you? And that could be a nice little side story. And Thomas was great about it. And he was like, dude, it was like my first thought. I was like, I haven't fought before, but I'm ready to go if need be. And honestly, I think like he gave some great insight on the like Lucic, Ryan Miller thing. When I went back to play it on my recorder, I was Lucic and Thomas were on opposite sides of the room, and I couldn't hear Tim Thomas's voice because all I could hear was like Lucic to this huge crowd of people being like, I'm just playing the puck and everybody wants to come after me.
Really quick, guys. Philly's got their backup /1B / pushing Carter Hart, Martin Jones, and Braden Holtby signing with Dallas on a 1-year deal.
Dude, I'll tell you what, if the Sabres don't sign Allmark, who is now very much free agent, they couldn't get a deal done, I might play goalie for them. They have fucking Tokarski.
Don't count out how much Georgiev could be valued by the Buffalo Sabres now in a potential Eichel deal.
Jimmy, this is going to fucking happen, isn't it? This is going to happen. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Wait, so what's Dallas going to do? They still have Bishop and Khudobin, right?
I thought that Khudobin was gone in some way, shape, or form. Whether he's a UFA or they were going to trade him or something. I could be wrong.
Because Ben Bishop said that, remember with the expansion, he's like, no, like they can take me if they want. So are there 3 goalies in Dallas right now? I'll text my Dallas guy.
Let's see.
We do have another defenseman coming off the board. Derek Forbert to the Bruins on a 3-year deal. And I'm holding my breath on that because he's not that good.
Yeah. They have Bishop, Khudobin, now Holtby, and not to mention Jake Ottinger, who's a kid out of BU that can play pretty well too.
Yeah, what are they doing there?
Hopefully,
that's interesting.
Well, now it's a position of strength in Dallas, which
I mean, Bishop's healthy for like 3 days a year, so it's just insurance.
That makes sense. What? I mean, how much? Holtby's got a fucking huge contract. How does that work?
Who, Holtby?
Yeah.
Well, Holtby's gone.
He was bought out. It was a 1-year deal.
Gotcha. Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense.
Boy, it's crazy to see what happened to Fleury and Holtby over the last couple of years, right? Like they were premier goaltenders, and now all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, you can have them.
Well, what happened to Khudobin? He's got to be like 81 now. So
I don't know, but I love him. He just has like this little
great energy,
right?
Great, really. He got when he was with the Bruins, he got a mask that changed color when you got water on it, and he would just like put on a show, like, "Hey, everybody, like, look, you take a water bottle and be like, guess what's gonna happen?" And it's like, probably you're gonna put water on it, it's gonna change color or something. That's exactly what happened.
So Bishop's got 2 years left at 4.9, and Dobie's got 2 years left at 3.3. Now you had Holtby, and then you have Jake Ottinger, who I would think would probably be the goalie of the future there.
It has to be.
Goalies.
I mean, the other 3 are combined 150 years old. So,
right.
Put Ottinger in whatever the Texas Stars. Shouts to Austin's
People talk about it in the chat. I saw the tweet too. A certain Flyers reporter said Parise returning home to New Jersey, which is just a weird tweet considering Bobby Margaritas talked about Parise and the Islanders this morning, and some other Islanders reporters said that's a done deal with Parise on the island. So I don't know what's going on there. I mean, if I get a text back before something breaks, I'll let you guys know. But that's weird to me.
$3 million AAV on Forbert. Don't like that.
You know what I did like? I did like that Mike Riley deal, though.
Yeah, I think that's okay. And I think that Riley is – way I put it yesterday was like, if you have an ace, like top pair left shot defenseman, then Mike Riley is a good guy to have as your second pairing defenseman. But if you've just got kind of meh on the left side, which is what the Bruins have, if you're like, hey, it's cool, Mike Riley's your second pairing defenseman, you're like, all right, well, that sounds pretty unremarkable. So I got questions on the Forbert signing because you've got Grzelcyk,
Yep.
who is in kind of over his head as a top pairing defenseman. Riley, I guess, slots in as the second pairing guy. Forbert is now your third pairing guy, and you're just planning on not doing anything with Jakub Zaboral. Or, I mean, if I'm the Bruins, for the last million years, I would have been calling everybody giving away a draft pick for them to take John Moore's contract. But I don't know. Now suddenly their left side is just kind of crowded with mediocre players.
Yeah.
Are you going to re-sign Rask, DJ? Is that anything there?
I'm guessing. I think like the safest bet is no, but it makes so much sense as to why they would. He just got surgery a few days ago, so if he's going to be out until January or February, he's going to be cheap as hell. And you can't really just do a wait and see and sign him during the season. You can't pull like a Roger Clemens with the Yankees back in the day, because then he'd have to clear waivers to join the team. And anybody with cap space could just blow it up. And you got to consider he's probably going to be signing for cheap too. So say you're signing him in season and you're like, okay, he's ready in February. Let's sign him now. 1 year, $2 million. That would be such an easy thing to screw up for other teams if they wanted to. They would just be like, oh, $2 million. Who freaking cares? Now the Bruins don't have their goalie and they're stuck with Swayman and Vladar, who people in Boston, like really this past year, showed a whole lot of I don't watch the NHL, where like the Bruins called up a young goalie and he was good, and he's a high prospect too, Jeremy Swayman. He looked really good, and everyone was like, okay, well, that's it, set and forget it, bye Tuukka, you're done. And it's like, dude, have you watched the Bruins? Like Andrew Raycroft, Blaine Locker, certainly watch what's going on in Philadelphia right now. Like, you can't just say, okay, the young goalie looks good, here are the keys, because that's the easiest way to stick with the here are the keys analogy, to just like, I guess, knock the tires off of your car.
Tuukka will be back, like you said. There's no rush, really. There's no rush to get this done today, you know?
Yeah, definitely not today, before the season.
Yeah, let him nurse his injury a little bit. Let him feel a little bit better. Let him get into a good headspace, and then he'll be up in Boston. Zach Bogosian back to Tampa on a 3-year deal at $850K.
Messina, New York. Messina, New York.
The Messina Arena, one of my favorite rinks, if not my favorite rink to play in.
Yes.
My God, that barn is cold as fuck and a blast.
I was watching NHL Network earlier, and they were talking about Tuukka. I think he just recently had surgery. They said he'd be back between January and February.
Yes.
And that a name to look there would be Ullmark to bring in to help Swayman, just in case something like that would happen. I'm not a big any guy who's ever been on the Sabres goalie guy, like ever, other than like Hasek.
I was just going to say, they had a pretty good goalie.
I would bring Chad Johnson back, personally. Chad Johnson was on the Sabres for a second, right, Brett?
I think he was.
DJ, I don't remember the name Chad Johnson, but the Sabres goalie carousel after Ryan Miller has been laughable at best. I mean, and now it's going to be even more laughable.
You think
they have good prospects now? They have Devin Levi, UPL, and Eric Portillo, who's the starter at Michigan this year, but they don't have an NHL goalie. Is
that Levi, Levi?
Yeah.
Oh, I like that, dude.
Yeah, Northeastern Husky too.
Let's think this guy's real good, and then Buffalo becomes a Levi jean wearing little city, dude. I like that pair of Levi.
Yeah, that marketing scheme could play there. But he better turn out, because that's the key prospect in quotations for Sam Reinhart. So that's got to work.
Big save. Dave Rittich is going to the Preds to play alongside UC Saros.
Dude, the goal. I'll tell you what, the goalie market is getting thin quickly.
Very thin for Buffalo, who still hasn't re-signed Ullmark.
Did Reimer sign anywhere?
I thought.
New
Jersey? Was he going to go to New Jersey, or did I make that up?
I don't think so.
Jersey signed Bernier.
Oh, yeah. Bernier. I get the. Were they on the same team in Toronto? Wasn't it Reimer and Bernier?
Even if they weren't,
yes,
that is an entirely acceptable.
Thank you.
Confusion on your part.
Between Reimer, Bernier, and Mrazek, those guys that are on the market every single year.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Tomas Vanek of goalies.
Reimer is still out there. I guess Buffalo makes sense to some degree. San Jose still looking
Yeah.
for a goalie. Edmonton, there's some teams still looking for a goalie.
There's a ton of San Jose especially after losing. Not like Jones was lighting it up there, but
Would Reimer go back to San Jose though?
no, Reimer wants to win somewhere. I think. I don't know
Well,
if he has
he's-
much of an option, but
Reimer doesn't get to say he wants to win. No offense.
James Reimer's not a goalie that says he wants to go somewhere that wins.
Reimer wants to play or be on a roster, I should even say. Well, what's Arizona doing in that? Did we mention them there?
Raptors with the Canes now. Darcy Kemper's still available. I said in the opener, Edmonton's pushing really hard on that. I believe they were working on something before the NHL draft that fell apart. Contracts were involved that ended up getting bought out. Hint, hint, wink, wink, James Neal. But they're back to working on a deal. I don't think it's done yet, but the suitors are dwindling. We're seeing all those teams that were reported to be in on Kemper starting to go other directions, except for Edmonton. And I was told last night that Edmonton's pushing hard on that, so it's something we're going to watch for.
Surprised we haven't heard Dougie Hamilton's name in the first 12. Sean Corali got 4 years and $10 million. I know that you guys probably don't care about Sean Corali, but that's a ridiculous contract. Very good for
the Bruins, though. You could tell he was really starting to drop off. Like when he was like peak Sean Corali in Boston, he was a great Bruin. But I mean, just watch this year's playoffs. Like the third and fourth lines for the Bruins didn't do anything.
Awesome kid, like teammates loved him. He would turn it up in the playoffs. He was a fourth liner who you could make a third liner in the playoffs. Like that's championship DNA. That's like the guy that you want on your team. And this year, Bruce Cassidy, who I think probably loves Sean Corali more than anybody on the planet, just like couldn't play the guy.
Mm-hmm.
And so, man, good for him. We say that this is silly season, but every now and then the silliness can be some feel-good silliness. But
Go really
ahead.
quick, I'm just going to say I think there's a lull in the action because Bob McKenzie just tweeted Montreal signing Group 6 free agent defenseman Louis Belpedo to a 1-year, 2-way contract. So if Bob McKenzie's tweeting that, I think things have calmed down.
You're not wrong.
It's calmed down. But Jimmy,
Alex,
you guys got your defenseman Patrick Nemeth. So the range is officially 2.5.
I like that a lot. I think he'll help out Nils Lundqvist coming in. But here's my question for you guys.
Former Buffalo or future Buffalo Sabre, Nils Lundqvist.
Alex Goligoski. Is he still good? Because he just signed a 1-year, $5 million contract, and I could have swore that guy was like 50 years old.
He is.
Dude, he's like one of the 5 best left shot defensemen available right now.
$5 million?
Like he's not good. He's not good, but I'm saying like it is slim pickings. I mean, Derek Forbert just got 3 years and $9 million. It is, man, what I'm telling you, teams that were in on Ryan Suter had to be the fuck in on Ryan Suter. And he ended up getting a bad deal. He ended up getting kind of an extreme deal. But if your options are get a top pairing defenseman or be kind of scrounging around for not necessarily riffraff, but like riffraff plus, get the good player.
The riffraff plus is all that's left in the defense market that was soft to begin with Dougie Hamilton being the lead. And then after that is a gigantic drop off. Now you have like John Merrill's out there, Ryan Murray, Ian Cole, if you're still doing something like that, Alex Edler. The guy I do like that's still out there is Yanni Hutton, who he can play a little bit. And so that's the kind of stuff you're working with as a UFA defenseman now. And there are a lot of teams. That's probably why you saw the Ristolainen return be so outrageously high, because for a top 4 right shot defenseman, that market is crazy, crazy thin right now.
NRD, I'm not familiar with Minnesota's cap space, but signing Goligoski to $5 million, does that take them a little bit more out of the Eichel sweepstakes, do you think, or what?
Let me look it up right now. Cap friendly, great resource.
Best resource.
Give me like 30 seconds. I'm triple monitoring it today.
$5 million a year, and you're trying to bring in somebody who makes 10. And they just bought out Preezy and Suter, so they have a ton of like just dead space there.
We have $24 million right now. I don't know if
Minnesota's still in a good spot.
Okay.
I mean, listen, they're gonna give Kaprizov like 10. So once that gets done, but they'll still be in a decent spot. And at the end of the day, for Buffalo to make an Eichel deal and not retain any money and not take any money back, Buffalo would be under the cap floor. So granted, their whole, path is not necessarily linked to an Eichel deal specifically, but like you'd have to assume money goes back the other way. So that helps Minnesota or the Rangers or any other suitor in that sense.
Brett, you want to mildly use Chris Kreider? I drive him there for you.
That might be the worst contract in the NHL right now, besides Trouba or Kyle Oposo.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you get Derek Forbert isn't great, guys.
How does Vegas just signed Brassard to 2 years, 2.3, another goalie? How is Vegas? Are they built of cash right now? Like, what is happening?
They just traded Nick Holden too, I think, for that Evgeny Dadonov.
Yeah. So this signals to me. I don't think Vegas is serious about Eichel anymore. How?
Maybe they never were, dude. I mean, they insist they aren't, but
They were.
I think
Bill Foley, man, that guy loves the big name.
Right. It's Vegas, and we've seen what they do every offseason, so it's just so comically predictable they would go after Jack Eichel, but it does stand to reason. There's like a 8% chance that maybe they're like, we're not doing that this offseason.
I don't know, man.
It just would have to be cap. So if it's Pacioretty, being a Alan Walsh client, that gets sent out, even though he does have a no trade clause. But then again, doesn't look like Vegas really cares. Look what they did to Marc-Andre. If you're not on their no-fly list, they will send you there and won't tell you in the process. So maybe if it's a Pacioretty going somewhere else just to give him more space. They were in on Ryan Strome. I know Gerard Gallant's a big fan of Jonathan Marchessault. He's a big fan of Ryan Reeves. So maybe there's some linkage there, as Larry Brooks in the New York Post wrote. Vegas can still do it, though. Theoretically, they could still do it. It just probably more than any other team be the team that has to send money the other way. And we know that Pegula doesn't want to take money.
I'm convinced Pegula is calling Gary Bettman saying, do I really need to hit this cap floor? Like, do I really need to? What is the penalty if I don't do that?
Yeah, how do we circumvent the cap floor?
Under, yeah.
Yeah. How do we?
They have to spend. The Dahlin's going to get paid. Jukka Hardy is going to get paid. They're going to be, if not like 8 or 9 million, they might be double-digit millions below the cap floor. They need to make move. Like, they literally have to.
They should have signed Taylor Hall, dude.
I remember seeing that DJ last October, whenever it was, being like, what if we signed Taylor Hall? He decided to come here. Looking back, it made all the sense in the world for him. It's 1 year, $8 million, whatever it was, with a full NTC, and he could go where the fuck he wanted.
Yeah.
But
I want to say this. I want to say this on Hall, and I don't know if he was the player to whom you were referring earlier. There were obviously two candidates, but
he was not one of the two.
Oh, he was not one of the two. Okay. Very good. But when Taylor Hall signed with the Sabres, everybody was like, that's it? 1 year at $8 million? When famously the trade was 1-for-1, everyone was like, that's it? You only get Adam Larson for Taylor freaking Hall? He signs now with the Bruins at 4 times 6, and everyone's like, oh my God, Sweeney does it again. Incredible. Like, how many times does Taylor Hall have to move for very little for people to understand? GMs do not feel the same way about Taylor Hall that all of us do. Like, first overall pick, shiny, obviously Hart winner, really good player, but like, the league clearly does not see Taylor Hall as the planet galaxy player that everybody on hockey Twitter does. So when everyone's like, man, it's great that Taylor Hall gave you a hometown discount, I agree. It's fortunate that you end up getting him, especially with how poorly you draft, to be able to add another really good top 6 wing. But what was he getting in free? If he was a free agent, what was Taylor Hall getting? Was he getting much more than 4 times 6? No. And the way he played, they were like, oh, Taylor Hall, Jack Eichel. They played together for 3 or 4 games. It was very, very small sample size, and he just didn't. He didn't look the part. It was like, oh, this is the Taylor Hall's
on hockey forums and all that shit has much more juice than he does on live viewing until he got to Boston, and then he played fucking lights out.
Totally. Well, he played lights out against the Sabres, and a lot of those good games were against the Islanders, so you give him credit there. But the end of Boston's schedule, man, was like Buffalo, New Jersey, Islanders. And good for him that he played better, but I'm going to sound like a Taylor Hall hater. I'm not, but I think that, man, you just put it perfectly. Like, he's got way more juice on hockey boards than
absolutely.
Than IRL.
Cody Ceci, 4 years, $3.25 million per with the Oilers. I just got to shout out my one guy who sent me a text with this number an hour and a half ago. I sat on it. I didn't tweet it. I'm sorry. You know who you are. Thanks for the scoop.
How
One
about
of the all-time funny things when Cody Ceci took that slap shot, and I forget who the announcer was. Like, takes shot, he goes, "Yeah, I wasn't even close." It was just a breakout back going the other way.
I'll tell you what deal that I love is Nick Bonino to the Sharks for $2 million, 2 years. That dude, he's just one of those guys I root for.
I like Bonino.
Great dude. I thought he might go to Toronto, but
He's
like
33.
James Reimer to San Jose too.
Want to feel old.
So, another goalie off the market. There's their goalie.
Cedric Paquette to Montreal, French-Canadian boy. The one thing I thought was funny, that Brousseau guy who just went to Vegas, I think he signed for 2.3, somewhere around there. Wasn't Carolina only going to give Nedeljkovic like 1.5 in the
1.5?
And the backup goalie in Vegas just signed for 2.5. So,
but Freddie Anderson is hashtag good ? I don't know.
Oh yeah.
The certain Flyers reporter that I wouldn't name by names deleted his tweet about Parise and the Devils. So
okay,
there you go.
That's there's the clarity.
Get the backpedal going. I love a good backpedal. You know what I don't like is when people retweet like a trade like years ago. Like somebody just retweeted somebody on my timeline and said Phil Kessel to Pittsburgh from 2015. I'm like, Phil, the Thrill's going back to Pitt. Yeah, hey, got to watch out for those things.
You say you don't like that? I'll be honest. I mean, it's usually Chaps who does that, and I quite like it. I always find it entertaining.
Because I'm such a mental midget that I automatically retweet it, and then everybody's like, dude, you're an idiot. And then I'm an idiot for a couple hours.
Well, that's where like Twitter just needs to chill. Like, I understand it's kind of lame to be duping people, but if you fall for something, everyone being so mean to you for that's what I don't get. Where it's like, don't you know it's from 1,000 years? And like everyone gangs up on you. And it's like, I'm not the bad guy here. Okay. I'm the victim.
Speaking of hockey Twitter just being in shambles, Tony DeAngelo going to the Carolina Hurricanes is one of the funniest things I think I've ever seen in my entire life.
Dude.
I wanted to talk about that, but I didn't know how bad we'd get flamed because I know this is a very polarizing thing. Yeah, that's interesting. And I really do commend, thank you for your service to all the season ticket holders who are finding out Tom Dundon's email, sending them emails and calling their local season ticket rep, thinking that that's going to do anything to change this signing. Because unfortunately, whether you like it or not, and we don't have to go into any specifics, Tony DeAngelo is going to be a Carolina Hurricane, and your threats to cancel your season tickets in the 300 section at the PNC Arena is not going to do a damn thing about it.
And you want to know what? Dougie Hamilton's out. I know people hate Tony DeAngelo. The guy can run a power play. He's a hell of a hockey player. Like, I got to watch him a couple years in New York, and like, obviously off the ice stuff is like a giant concern, but when he's just on the ice, if that guy were just to shut up and play hockey, he would be an incredible. He cost himself so much money by having like a Twitter and a podcast and stuff.
Oh yeah.
I'm hoping it's like he kind of figured that out. Just shut up and go to the rink and play.
And let's be clear, I'm not excusing, right, or really saying anything, because there's plenty of things I disagree, with Tony DeAngelo eye to eye on. Some things I do, some things I don't. But let's just say this: he has some genuine off-ice concerns and documented incidents, but he was not hated in that New York Rangers locker room. He wasn't hated in the Arizona Coyotes locker room either. He just had some specific incidents with teammates. So people talking about a bad locker room fit, I don't know if that's true. I just know that you're going to have to keep him out of some off-ice incidents.
Yeah, that was the weirdest part of the whole Tony DeAngelo. I mean, I don't want to say the weirdest part because there are some terrible parts of the Tony DeAngelo experience, right. But there was also the part where like hockey Twitter was also like either seemingly like making up or embellishing like additional incidents to further him being a bad guy. And that's where like I was talking about how Twitter can be weird. Like a weird thing that people do is like root for bad things to happen so they can say like that's a bad thing, and I know that's a bad thing. And in the case of Tony DeAngelo, like you don't need to make stuff up. You don't need to embellish stuff. Like this is like actually like a person with, I mean, a lot of the things are like of his choosing, obviously politically and everything, but like this is a guy with like documented, like has done and said bad, harmful things. You don't need to muck it up and make it cloudy and give him or his representatives ammunition to say, oh, well, people are just making stuff up. Right? Like,
it's a good point. No, you bring up a good point, right? Like he's done some effed up things, but the Keandre Miller with the puck thing never happened. That was total hogwash. That was completely made up.
Yeah, and people were rooting for that horrible thing to happen to Keandre Miller.
Yeah.
So they could say that it was bad. And I'm like, look, I understand being well-intentioned and wanting to say like that would be a horrible thing to do, but if it seemingly didn't happen, rooting for it to happen so you can like dislike Tony DeAngelo is a little more is like super insensitive to Miller, I think.
Yeah, no, 100%. The guy who did it, like he's been known for doing stuff like that. I'm not going to bring him up, but he might be the most insufferable human being on planet Earth. So it kind of made sense. We got a couple other things. Getzlaf.
Jerry Tenorti.
Yep.
Jimmy, Jerry Tenorti for you.
I saw that. I'm going to have to look him up a little bit. 2 years, $900K. I don't hate it. Getzlaf looks like he's staying put in Anaheim. That's a Kevin Weeks bomb. I love Weeksy.
Yes.
Weeks is awesome.
He's been good. Hey, before we get going, let's talk more Rangers with somebody who might know a thing or two on the topic. Let's bring in Tara from the Glove Drop.
What's
Tara,
up, guys?
What's going on? We got the overlay. Let's see if we get this right.
Where'd everybody go?
We're getting close. Adam, you got to hit the one to the left of the current No, here we're
playing Hollywood Squares. Figure it out.
Okay, guys, I'm used to messing up.
To the left of NRD's picture. We got live. No, we'll get there. Left down. There you go. Oh,
6'6", 205 and mean American boy Jared Tenorti. Let's go.
I think we got it.
We figured it out.
I wanted the chaos one.
Loving that Rangers hat. Loving the discussion thus far. I've been sitting here like creep. What I'm going to say in my head. But you guys talked about Tony DeAngelo without me, so I don't know what's up with that. But I'm just going to add right on to that before we start getting even real deep into the Rangers, who I'm upset with right now. The guy can't be that bad if his team and the entire Rangers organization came out and said, he's a good dude. We wish him the best.
Yeah.
What do you think?
You are on the way out.
You don't have to say that.
What are you going to do? But yeah.
What do you think so far? What's going on, Tara, today with the Rangers, who just signed Tenorti, by the way?
They did, and like he said, I'm gonna have to do a little creeping on him as well. I'm a little stressed out right now about the Rangers. I'm still not sitting pretty with that whole Buchnevich situation. You can't. I mean, you want to have a rebuild, and you got only so many veteran players. And you know, when Panarin was out dealing with the KGB or whatever that situation was, Buch led the team. Zibanejad was struggling. He was the one that was consistent. He was the one who stepped up to the plate and did what he needed to do to basically carry them, while the other two on his line, these two stars, are in shambles, and everybody else is very, very young. Yay, I'm excited. Barclay Goodrow, he's a Stanley Cup champ 2 years in a row. But my concerns with that are, I think it could be a situation like a Kevin Shattenkirk style player. Like, yes, congratulations, you won the Stanley Cup. But when Shattenkirk got sent off, he wasn't going to play like he was playing with the Tampa Bay Lightning, because his play was being lifted up by the players he was around. He was only going to be able to give as much as Kevin Shattenkirk can give on a team with the team surrounding him. So that's my concerns with Goodrow. Great player, but how is he going to play with a team that isn't light years ahead of everybody else?
The worst part about the Kevin Shattenkirk deal was the commercial that they came out with the one guy being like, "I love you, Kevin. Thanks for coming home." And he never played a game. And then when he did play, it stunk. He was awful.
Yeah. So you see a player like that, and that's my concern with Goodrow.
Really quick on the
have some Stanley Cup in the vibes in the locker room, but if you're a fourth.
Really quick, since we talked about Tony DeAngelo, it came up and I just want to put it out there, and then we can go back to the other discussion. Jeff Molson, the CEO
saw
of the
that.
Canadiens, just puts out a letter more or less denouncing the decision to draft Logan Malio, however you pronounce
Mayu,
his
I
name.
think.
Mayu, yeah. Basically saying that they tried to give him a second chance, but in the process, they did not recognize the impact to the victim, and that he will not be at rookie camp or training camp for the Montreal Canadiens. So good timing to put that statement out. Nobody's going to talk about that one.
So like, they don't have a problem denouncing somebody. So
A+ backpedaling at 12:30 on Free Agent Frenzy.
They had to have been so freaking high on this kid because they ended up drafting him like roughly where people thought he would be. Like they didn't even get like a deal on him, right? Like he didn't even slide because of this. People thought that he was going to be like around late first, early second round, and they grabbed him with a 31st overall pick. Super confusing stuff. Also, you mentioned Jared Tenorti. He was like pretty good in Boston when he got there for a sec. I don't know. It didn't really last, but don't hate Jared Tenorti signing. Hate the Goodrow signing. I love Goodrow. Like at the time, I think I tweeted something that didn't make sense, but I was like, Barclay Goodrow sucks because you want him on your team, but the only way to have him on your team is by having a contract that will make you say Barclay Goodrow sucks. If that makes sense.
That's a lot of money to give a dude who, like, again, like we've seen him play with a team that is far and beyond way better than everybody, just the dynamic of the team. So how's he going to play with a team that isn't the Tampa Bay Lightning? We're just going to over all that money.
Them trading like
I'm not feeling that one. Not
them trading. I think they traded a first round pick for him, right? Tampa did, and that was seen as like an overpay, but it was also seen as like a ooh. But now they have Barclay Goodrow in their bottom six, and now they are going to be that much more difficult to play against. It was worth Tampa overpaying for him. It's not. I would say it would not be worth a non-cup contender to overpay for, especially 6 years. Yikes! Not loving that.
I need a new favorite player. Brendan Smith's gone. I think I'm gonna lock right on to Barclay Goodrow. Everybody hates him. I love the bad boy in the locker room, dude. I think he's gonna be serviceable. You look at the Rangers; they have all this talent, right? And that's why they got rid of Buchnevich. That devil's advocate on that is the fact that you have Capo Caco, you have Alexis Lafreniere, Artemi Panarin, and Chris Kreider. Those are guys that need to be in your top six. Buchnevich kind of.
I take Buch over Kreider these days, honey.
Well, yeah, but you can't get rid of Kreider. That's because they gave him that stupid contract. So what it comes down to, I wouldn't be mad about that trade. I'd be more mad about the Kreider deal. And who made the Kreider deal? It wasn't Drury.
No.
So that would be my devil's advocate.
I'm just trying to put all like my hope and faith into Drury. And you know what? As far as decisions being made and GMs and new faces in the organizations, at the end of the day, I can go to bed knowing that I'm not a Sens fan and that Pierre Maguire is not his grimy paws in any of the decisions made for my team. That sucks. And if hockey Twitter needs to go off about anything, put Tony DeAngelo on the back burner. You guys have Pierre, and that's brutal. I don't know how I'm going to deal with that one. It's going to be pretty jokes.
I'm going to miss his awkward moments. And you want to know what? Pierre gets a lot of hate, but I don't know if there's a person on planet Earth that loves and appreciates a game of hockey the way Pierre Maguire does. The shit that guy researches to figure out about hockey players is insane. Like, he is a creep 100%. Like, he loves hockey.
So I was just about to recuse myself from this conversation because I'm an NBC employee, but then you said a nice thing about Pierre Maguire, and I totally agree with that. And there's people like that in every sport where people are like, oh, and I won't name names, but they'll be like, oh, this football person is like insufferable, or this person, or this like... But it's like they love the sport so much that it's just like it's all they can do. It's like if I'm talking about like Heim or something like that, like it's all I can do to just not talk about it for 1 second.
I love hockey so much too, but nobody's giving me a coaching job. I'll tell you that right now. And the only reason I say that is because his previous head coaching positions were a train wreck.
Yeah, they were
into a plane crash. And the feedback from the players was brutal. So, you know what? I'm just trying to look at the silver lining of everything right now, even though my favorite player is gone. But
I think as soon as Barclay Goodrow steps up and puts Tom Wilson into the glass, game one at MSG, I think New York will have a a different.
They got Tenorti, dude. Yeah. Oh, Tenorti. I think Tenorti fought Wilson this year. Did pretty decent against.
Yeah, New York is building a team. You're building a team that people are going to have trouble playing against because they're going to beat you up a little bit.
Which definitely needed.
That was the best team when they had like Stu Bickle and Mike Rupp and Dubinsky and Callahan. Like nobody wanted to play the Rangers because you were going to leave with bruises all over your body.
And now you're not getting hit at all. It's
at all
late touch.
See, Tenorti dummied Wilson. Thank you, Robert Parks. Appreciate you, bud.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Thank God. Yeah. I need to put that on repeat and play it at my instead of like ASMR to go to sleep and just rewatch that over.
You're gonna like Jared Tenorti. In fact, I think that the Bruins were kind of dumb for signing Forbert at 3x3 instead of Tenorti at 2x $900K.
And it gives the guys a break too. Now you have all 7 defensemen, and if you look at it, you have Adam Fox. He's young. Keandre Miller is young. Lindgren is young. There's a lot of young players on that. They're going to get beat up, and now you have a guy where if you're playing the Capitals, if you're playing the Bruins, if you're playing, I don't know if the Flyers are that tough anymore, but if you're playing like these tough games, Tenorti seems to be like a guy that you can put in and take one of the kids out and give them a break. Like they're going to need breaks. You can't just play these 21-year-olds for 82 games. It's not gonna
happen. That you're right in that sense in terms of just the physicality of the game, just the matchups. When that Tom Wilson game, going into that second game and the line brawl within 2 seconds, I'm looking at the Rangers and I'm like, this is like you have to do it, but this is
when that happened, for a split second I thought they were replaying when the Rangers played the Devils and they had that line brawl at the beginning of the game, and I'm looking at the TV, I'm like, why are they replaying that right now? And I see Colin Blackwell out there dropping the gloves. I'm like, holy shit, it's happening right now. And then Smitty coming flying across and you're just on jumping him. I know he didn't win the fight, but
the fact that Smitty went out in the first place and jumped him, that's a big deal because he's not that big of a guy, that big of a fighter. So
Nick Foligno, sorry to break up this New York Rangers stream. Nick Foligno. Nick Foligno's talking Minnesota, Boston, and the Avalanche, as per Michael Russo of The Athletic. I know Minnesota pushed really hard for him at the trade deadline. They just didn't want to give up the first that Toronto ended up doing. His brother is there. I've heard for weeks Minnesota, so I'm watching that one.
Did you say Boston was one of the teams?
Boston, yeah.
Nick Foligno would be a great Bruin depending on what contract goes that way.
Are the Bruins allowed to get good players this offseason, or is that just like a...
No, you guys lost that privilege.
Cool.
Leadership.
Cool.
Nick Foligno's leadership, man.
I guess.
Foligno was leadership. I mean, when they got him up to, he was just in Toronto, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when he got up there, just even hearing him when he had that first trade, he was only there for what, 2 months, I guess, short-lived.
Cup of coffee.
Yeah, 7 games.
7 games, yeah. But even his attitude just going in the first place, I was ton of respect for that. So if he can bring that into Boston, because it kind of seems like there's a little bit since Chara's gone, and
for sure
a little bit of a disconnect there for sure.
I sneaky wondered while the Bruins are signing a bunch of like third pairing defensemen, I wondered if they would just call Chara and be like, "Look, last offseason was weird. Don't know what happened. Look, our wires got crossed. You ended up in Washington. Definitely not our fault completely." But do you want to come back? But now they've pretty much stocked the cupboard.
Yeah, I wouldn't take him back. He's so old.
I know, but he is. I mean, he is.
It's Boston.
I don't know.
We stand.
He went into the game when he broke his face 2 playoffs ago when they lost, and that was a dumb idea in the first place. He's trying to get him out there for morale, and he's not going fast. He's injured. He's playing like garbage.
Right.
But the hype around him kind of got into the heads of the coaching staff, and they're like, oh yeah, maybe it's a good idea, we should put him in. No, you shouldn't.
It was super cool that he did that. I'm definitely not taking anything away from him, but I do remember there was a couple of days where leading up to like, wait, he might play the next game. He might play. That'd be the most insane thing. Getting hit in the face, and then again, I'm not taking anything away from Char. Like that is absolute warrior shit stuff I would never do. But they're like, can you imagine anybody doing that? And it's like, yes, you're the Bruins. Yeah. Steven Stamkos took a slap shot to the face against you in Game 7, like just the year they won the cup, and stayed in the game, like left for like 3 seconds and then came back. Hockey players are maniacs.
Time for some New Jersey Devils talk really quick, sponsored by the Secaucus Junction New Jersey Transit Station. Dougie Hamilton, I don't expect any anything to change there. They're just going through the paperwork, doing everything as Dreger said on TSN. But a couple of weeks ago, they were going to push hard. They gave him the most money. We're just waiting on confirmation on that. I wouldn't be too worried if I was a New Jersey Devils fan right now regarding Dougie Hamilton.
I'll say this on Dougie Hamilton. I think, and this goes back to like the Taylor Hall stuff I was saying earlier, where it's like the league doesn't like this person as much as you do. The Hurricanes basically told Dougie Hamilton, like, hey, we want you back, and here's what we're going to give you. Definitely go and test the market. And we've seen teams do that before, but I wonder if they did it because they were like, we know that no one's going to give you a huge mammoth deal. Like, good player that you are, we know that you're not going to get anything insane out there. And I think it's kind of a stupid risk to take because all it takes is one team. And all it takes is like one team that either has like Subban's coming off the books soon. Is that after next season? Like,
He's got one more year, yeah.
Yeah,
correct. Yep.
Makes all the sense in the world for a team like the Devils to go out and sign Dougie Hamilton. So I don't know if maybe Carolina didn't want him back that much. I saw Sarah Siv said that their last offer to him was 8 times 6.2.
Yeah.
And that is going to, I mean, Dougie Hamilton is represented by JP Barry, who is like one of the best agents in the biz. That probably got, I don't think JP would do this, but like that should get like a double finger response because 6.2, not going to get it done.
What has Carolina done this offseason but tell us they're cheap? I mean,
Tony DeAngelo, brah.
Yeah.
Well, right now, Mrazek, they're about to do, I don't know if it went through yet, Mrazek Anderson. They're just about to do a little quick handoff.
Yeah.
One deal, which, I mean, Mrazek was doing pretty good for them when things got a little hairy during the playoff or during the season. And Freddie Anderson, I don't know. I mean, I would want to get out of Toronto if I was him, just because if you make a mistake as a goalie in Toronto, you're going to have pitchforks outside your house. Get rid of him, and he's expensive. But he's been out injured, so Carolina seems to be stirring the pot a ton today. Like all the drama, everything's happening with Carolina right at the foundation.
And just a wild, like Ethan Bear for Warren Fogle trade. I wonder if that's because Fogle's going to get paid, but they were like, yeah, bring in Ethan Bear. Him and Tony DeAngelo should get along.
That'll be a good fit. Really quick, shout out to what I believe is the official New Jersey Devil in the chat. We got the Devil's mascot in here, so thanks for joining us, Mr. Devil.
Shouts to Mr. Devil.
I see you with the eye emojis. Yeah, maybe you could let us know what's going on with Dougie Hamilton if you're there for his contract signing for some photo ops or anything like that. But appreciate you chilling with us, New Jersey Devil.
Bernier just signed 2 years, 4.125 in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
There's the Devils news we were waiting for.
$4 million for Bernier.
Bernier. It's a 2-year though.
No wonder why Carolina didn't sign him. I'm forgetting him.
Let's see. I'm going through the market right now. Deneau is still on the board. Brandon Saad has been linked to every team on the planet. NRD, anything on Brandon Saad or like a Mike Hoffman right now?
Yeah, I believe the Islanders were in on Brandon Saad, but the Palmieri deal is going to take them out of that hunt just because of the money allocation. St. Louis is in on Saad. A lot of the Brendan Saad suitors were in that same level of market as the Gabriel Landeskog teams, right? Like including the Islanders, the Colorado Avalanche, the St. Louis Blues, and now St. Louis has got to get rid of the Tarasenko deal in order to make Saad work. Colorado's out now with the Landeskog 8 years, $7 million. The Islanders appear to be out. I'm looking for that second-tier team to step up on Brendan Saad right now, but the only team right now that's been well reported out there is St. Louis that we know of.
And our NRD is conversation low on Deneau right now because teams are waiting to see what plays out with Eichel?
Yeah, not that Deneau is a offensive centerman with the same acumen as Jack Eichel, but those groups of teams are pretty much the same there. You're talking the New York Rangers, the Vegas Golden Knights. I don't know. I haven't heard Minnesota linked to Deneau, but one of the California teams, Anaheim, has been linked to Deneau. They got that Henrique albatross of a contract, but they're still looking to change things up, and they could do it. So LA as well, possible fit. They're still looking to add a top 6 forward. I don't think Tarasenko dream is dead there in LA yet either. I know they looked into him from the get-go, and things quieted down there as it looked like Tarasenko was Philly bound. That got broken up. So I don't know, but I will tell you this. Deneau is going to get upwards of $5.5 million, maybe $6 million. So whoever's going to give it to him is going to be a team that plans on playing him on the second line, because paying the third line center $6 million does not work in the National Hockey League. It'll only work if you're a guy like Casey Cizikas and you fit into the system there, but he's going to get less than $6 million. So it's kind of a moot point there.
Selke votes for Philip Deneau. If he was the best defensive center in the playoffs by a mile. Scored 1 goal though. I wonder if teams are just like, what, you can't score 1 goal and be our second line center for $6 million. But you make everybody better.
Yeah, no, you gotta put at least a little. You're gonna go second line on that one, and you're gonna be paying that much for him. I want at least 2 goals.
I will say, if you put anybody with Panarin, they'll probably at least put up 10.
And what if you say, I'm just thinking of Eichel. I've been thinking of Eichel to the Rangers at this point, because Vegas, I don't know if that's possible. I mean, it's possible, but if you're the Rangers and you go Zibanejad, Eichel, Hedl, and that's your center spine right now, or Strome too,
Panarin,
you're not bad. You're not
good
bad.
young defenseman Igor Shesterkin, if he stays healthy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Trade Georgiev, couple whatever prospects, Lundqvist, and I'm coming around to the Rangers trade that I was out on until literally this morning, but we'll see where that goes.
Make the call, Brett.
You know what? I've been trying to work.
Anything new with Comfort?
I've been trying to work my guys, and I got 1 eye emoji back this morning, and since then it's been crickets, and I think it's more.
Okay.
I think
Just
it's
really
more,
quick, one more update on the Dougie Hamilton thing. Not that the great Darren Dreger needs it, but I got a very similar answer on the 2-yard line. It just working through some kinks in the system, but looks like Dougie's New Jersey bound, like Nick Kiprio said this morning.
I don't know. Is New Jersey going to be good though? Like,
No.
I mean, what are they? They're sort of stuck in between like Subban contracts and signing Dougie Hamilton, and then like trying to
grow up their children.
They're young guys. Yeah, like I don't. Where is Nico Hischier even? Is he going to net out anywhere? Like what is New Jersey doing right now? No offense, New Jersey
Devil. Maybe he's got some answers, but yeah, no. They to put Dougie Hamilton in with that kind of just seems like a little bit of a waste for them, because you're not really going to get the most out of him.
The plan would be let maybe you dump Subban to the Sabres or something like that, and you try to picked up Ryan Graves, then you have Graves, Hamilton, Damon Severson's still there, he can play a little bit. Ty Smith coming up, like their defense core is going to be fine after Subban's contract is off the books.
Yeah,
are they going to score?
Subban's fault though. He's the one that needs to move. That piece needs to move before the Devils can really make any huge adjustments in both of their lines.
I think my only issue with Dougie Hamilton is if he's as good as everybody says he is, why hasn't he stuck on one team? Like it seems like he just continues.
Because he doesn't hit anybody. He doesn't play physical.
All right, he's definitely not very physical. And I was talking earlier about like the league being archaic. He's a different dude, but not in a not in a bad way. I feel like every time people talk about Dougie Hamilton's personality, they note that like he's not like every other hockey player, and they say that is a bad thing. Like I dealt with him for a million years in Boston, and he was one of my favorite people to talk to because he didn't give you stock answers, and he'd like make jokes. He'd make you uncomfortable, not just like your generic everyday like, hey, good luck tonight. Thanks. It's going to be tough. The other team sure has what it takes.
Yeah.
Hope we do too. See you later. Like he'd more talk to you like a human being. And I always appreciated that with him. Other reporters would be like, it's different dealing with him than dealing with everybody else. And then then after he got traded and I started seeing reports of like, ooh, is he a good teammate? He likes to go to museums. I'm like, of course he would like to go to museums. That makes total sense for this person. Like he's his own thoughtful dude.
Why is that a story?
I couldn't believe it.
What are these people reading? He goes to museums. Is he a good teammate? What?
And people wear it as a badge of honor that Dougie Hamilton blocks them on Twitter. Like he's blocked so many people on Twitter, and everyone's like, ooh, Dougie's soft. He blocked me. Like, tell you what, he didn't block me. Like, I just talked to him like a nice person, and he's a perfectly nice guy. I have no complaints about Dougie Hamilton as a person, but the NHL is so freaking weird that you have to be this like exact same robot, and him not being that somehow gets spun into he's a weird guy or he's different. And even if he is different, you're supposed to be different.
Crosby, like, he's a weird person. Like, yeah, I definitely have made fun of McDavid for giving the most awkward interview of all time ever.
Right.
But, like, they just pick, if you're not the like Yandel Hayes duo, which I think is going to be hilarious. That's going to be a riot on the Flyers. I know that they're jokes together, but if you're not that loud, outspoken, funny, stereotypical hockey dude, they're like, oh, he's weird.
Yeah, and I'm surprised that
locker room. It's like
the world is simultaneously becoming more thoughtful and also like angrier and meaner. And I would think that as part of the thoughtful part, people wouldn't say like, oh, this is a player that really likes to read, and be like, oh, well, then he must not love hockey. Like, relax, everybody.
But
he's awesome at hockey. The on-ice things that you're talking about, Brett, totally legitimate. Like, not physical. I've seen games where like you can take him out of the game by just being too in his face, and though that's a realistic concern if you're going to sign him to a huge money deal. But I mean, his numbers speak for himself. The seasons he's had speak for himself. I will defend Dougie Hamilton to the very end.
The Devils are going to end up having a really good decor, especially when is it Luke Hughes becomes of age, and then you have Ty Smith, you have Dougie Hamilton. I like Severson a lot. Like, they're going to have pretty halfway decent defensemen. The Bernier thing, kind of. Do they have any goalie prospects in their pipeline? Do we know that answer for the New Jersey?
Mackenzie Blackwood's good, right?
Oh, yeah.
I think he had
total side note, as far as Denault goes, though, Steve Valiquette just tweeted, if Ryan Strome is traded, Denault. I don't know how.
Yeah, that was earlier this morning.
Is, but that would be a big one. Yeah,
but really quick on New Jersey, and I guess I got to carry the sword for the New Jersey Devils here really quick. It seems like Lindy Ruff is the type of coach that's going to let these younger guys play their style of hockey. And, I don't know if, like, people, naysayers will say there's a lack of a system in Lindy Ruff hockey, but I think the New Jersey Devils are going to be fine. They're a young team. They just drafted Luke. They have Jack Hughes there. They're going to be fine. I just think they're going to have to work out the kinks. I think once the Subban contract comes off the books next year, that's more flexibility. Obviously, you're going to have to bring back these guys like Jack Hughes and whatnot, these younger guys, and names escaping me on the wing there. They have a young Swedish winger. But, like, they're going to be fine. They're going to work it out. I just think they're a young team, and they're in a really good division, right? They're in the Metro, where there's some heavy hitters. Pittsburgh's probably looking like the weakest in the Metro right now, which is crazy to say, just from a terms of potential and where that team is headed. But Washington's strong. The Rangers, the Islanders, the Devils are all younger, stronger teams, where the Islanders are a little bit older. But you guys know what I'm saying. I think New Jersey's in a good spot. If I have to carry the sword for them, I will. But I don't think they're as bad off as it seems.
I don't think they're as bad as they have been previously in the last 2 seasons or so.
Yeah, no, I think they're trending in an excellent direction. And I don't think the Dougie Hamilton contract is bad. You had to pay him, right? Like, he was going to get paid anyway. The Seth Jones contract absolutely destroyed the market for defensemen. So did the Mira Heiskanen contract in Dallas. So they have the cap space. They've operated to the point where they've saved a lot of money over the last couple of years with their rebuild. And I think they're going to reap the rewards sooner than later, though.
Like I said, Subban.
Yeah, once Subban's off the books, and he could be off the books as soon as today. I mean, that contract, Arizona, Buffalo have the cap space to do it, and just they should. I don't know why Buffalo's not using their cap space, but next year, after this season, New Jersey RFAs include Miles Wood, Jesper Bratt, Pavel Zacha, Jesper Bodequist, and Jack Hughes. So next summer, they're going to be busy. They're deciding what they're doing with their future, because that's going to be an expensive summer for them.
I love Miles Wood. Love the way that guy.
Oh, same. And in Jack Hughes' defense, I know I called him like a 12-year-old just before. He did put 15 pounds of muscle on over last offseason, and he did improve significantly. So you never know. He could be like exponentially just getting more mature and better. And now that he's not all eyes on him, first overall pick, when it was the whole weight of the NHL world on him because he was the number one and lose for Hughes, that whole deal. I think that he's probably going to get a little bit more mentally strong as well. So there's no doubt in my mind that he's actually going to be making big moves within the next year or two.
I believe Buffalo's been kicking it around with the Philip Grubauer camp. Let's see where that goes. From what I've heard, as it looks like Linus Ullmark might be going in a different direction. I think Buffalo has circled around to Grubauer. I know he's going to probably get upwards of $6 million, but we'll see Buffalo can afford it. So, and I've heard they've looked into it just now. So we'll see if that develops any traction.
Yeah,
and I saw that deal went through too with Anderson Mrazek. So,
yep. And in Buffalo, that makes all sense in the world for Buffalo. I know Ullmark has rubbed some people the wrong way in that organization. Granted, he had a tough year. His dad passed away mid-season. He'd been sick for a long time. So Ullmark wasn't exactly 100% all year. He'd been nagging injuries. I know some people in the organization took that the wrong way as sort of unfocused type of thing. But he's a great goalie. He's going to go somewhere and do really well. If it's not Buffalo, it's unfortunate that it wouldn't be Buffalo, but I knew if he was going to come back, it would be way, well above market price for him to stay. So that makes all the sense in the world. I like Grubauer. I like him in Colorado. I'm afraid that Grubauer, his value is inflated because of the team he had in front of him. But, goalies are goalies. You never really know.
it's true. He did, despite the fact that the team in front of him was unbelievable.
Yeah.
He did have a standout, a career season last year.
Agreed. Totally.
He was standing on his head. He was up for the Vezina, wasn't he? He was nominated, I believe.
Grubauer?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a finalist. Line just no.
So Line signed his qualifying offer for 7.5.
Oh, okay. Is that news or no?
That was earlier.
It was expected. Why wouldn't he take 7.5? That's an overpayment for Patrick Line right now. So
does he? So I'm trying to think of where he is. How old is he? Would this get him to UFA?
Patrick Line is 23.
No.
Oh, okay. So not even close. Yeah.
Doesn't it seem like Patrick Line is like 28?
So that's what I was saying. I was like, I feel like he's like 26, and then he's had enough accrued seasons, so maybe. But no.
It kind of looks like Wolf the Dentist dancing. So.
Hell yeah. And I think his career has just like aged him. Like one Patrick Line NHL year is like 4.5 human years. Yeah.
Speaking of people that feel like they've been around forever, Andreas Athanasiou has just re-signed with LA for 1 year, 2.7. That dude orange coned my entire Pee Wee team in Montreal. Like I've never seen anything in my life. I was like, oh, we were 12. That dude skated around us like we were cones.
Hell yeah.
And, you expect, you're like, oh, that kid's good. And that kid's really fast. We did one of those skating competitions where he blew everybody away. It's good to know that he's still considered fast. It wasn't just like, oh, he's just a random NHL player. He's still one of the fastest players in the league. So that's my Andreas Athanasiou anecdote.
Dude,
that would be a cool too much dip conversation. Like, what athletes were you around at either hockey practices or camps as a child? Big one for Dave over here. Chris Drury. He was always at the BU camps, and they'd be like, "You hear this, Kay? You see Drury this past year? He got drafted by the Avalanche." And we're like, "Well, we don't even know what the Avalanche are yet, so who cares about this kid?" And
I had Marty St. Louis as a UVM Catamount, my coach in Vermont.
It's not bad. We always just had a bunch of at my practices. The Islanders would show up, and I'd be like, old men, because when they were really good, they would show up. Adam Fox would show up to my rink. That would be sweet. Jersey Devils, they got Bernier for goaltending.
Officially, and they
Jesper Bratt.
Nate Thompson.
2-year deal, 4.12.
Sorry, Jesper Bratt, really quick. Thank you for Greg K in the chat. That was the name of the Swedish winger I was thinking of on New Jersey. It's young, and they're going to have to re-sign him soon, but playing really well. Jesper Bratt.
Very quick, Jesper Bratt. Like, very, very good skater. Explosive.
He and Miles Wood, they play that game is just absolutely awesome. That forechecking,
relentless,
100 miles an hour game. I love it. And then as I was just saying, Nate Thompson to Philly. just another guy that can play. That's gonna that Philly locker room right now is gonna be an absolute content alley. Those dudes are gonna be
Literally,
worried
what
about-
I was just, it's going to be somebody put a GoPro on every single person. Every single guy on that team should be mic'd up 100% of the time. Not great.
I
Half
mean-
of those guys are worried about like podcast ads mid-season, like fucking
Yeah.
Jimmy Hayes, and now you throw in you already have Van Riemsdyk, Giroux, Hayes, Atkinson's that he can muck it up with the boys too. That's
I
gonna
think
be a fun
Atkinson
team.
went to
He's a
BC
24/7 on Philly.
So the team might suck, but they'll definitely
have a good time.
have a good time, good content. I think like the whole Gritty thing happened, which I've heard conflicting stories on the birth of Gritty and whether or not they knew when they were making Gritty that it was actually that stupid, and that like once they showed it to people and everyone was like, "Oh my, yeah, it's like a stupid mascot," they were like, "Yeah, that's exactly
Totally,
what we
I'm
were
into
going
it."
for," and then just leaned into that. But I think that it was a kind of a happy accident. Maybe like the Gritty experience has made them think like, you know, we don't need to be a hockey team. We can just be like a fun hockey brand.
The beer league team, let's go.
Yeah.
But I know Cam Atkinson played, I believe he played at BC, which means he played with Hayes, which means there's definitely, at least there's still some chemistry with that too. At least, if not for content, because I'm pretty sure he's like 5'8", and I know a bunch of them.
Love it.
Well, so
Oh yeah, he did go to BC. I'll pull a Pierre and add Avon Old Farm
Avon,
School
yeah.
as well.
Ooh, Avon Old Farm.
Yeah, I tell you what, fucking college hockey, BC.
Yeah.
They got some studs. They got Matt Boldy, who I want so bad from Minnesota, in an Eichel deal. I don't know if that's going to happen anymore, but
Dude, growing up in not to be like your cousin from Boston, but
From Boston.
growing up in Boston was awesome just because like you didn't have to go to Bruins games. You could just go to BC and BU games and see absolute studs
Bean Pod or
all
whatever.
the time. Yeah, the Beanpaw was great. Just whenever you want though. Like my dad would be like, "Hey, want to go see Brian Jonta?" Hell yeah, I want to go see Brian Jonta.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Rochester.
Jelly.
Yeah.
You guys brought up Avon Old Farms. Brian Leach went there in 54 games, 70 goals, 90 assists as a defenseman.
Not bad.
100
Not bad. Is that good? I thought, is that good?
That's
Dude,
crazy.
what's the league that is before? It's the league before like junior in Toronto, where I think like Stamkos played there, like Riley Smith played there, and if you are okay at hockey, you score like 900 goals in 30
It's the
games.
Greater Toronto GT something.
Is that
Greatest Toronto Hockey League?
I think
It
it's the GTHL. Yeah.
No.
And so let me look this up because I forever ago I was doing a story on Riley Smith, and I just like came across his stat line in that league, and I was like, "What is this?" And then I just like poured through every NHL player who played in that league. And
Yeah,
you
it's the
score-
GTHL.
Through the roof?
The Greater Toronto Hockey League.
That's it. That's it. You score like 9 goals a game if you're okay.
And then you go play in the O or whatever. But that's like
Yeah.
that's like the big youth league where you still play for your hometown teams and just absolutely whoop up on people. It's like Texas high school football type of stuff.
Yeah.
Like
Okay. So
public high school hockey.
Riley Smith, 0607, playing for the Toronto Nationals of the Greater Toronto Hockey League, under 16, 70 games played, 80 goals, 77 assists for 157 points in 70 games. Incredible.
That's
A
wild.
legend. No wonder Buffalo wants him for Eichel.
Back in 1998 in the like a European junior, I think it was the D division for Kazakhstan. Nick Antropov, 5 games played, 23 goals, 31 assists for 54 points.
That's a tidy season.
Do you remember that guy with the tinted visor, that big ass dude, Nick Antropov, man?
A tinted
Amazing.
visor. Already love him. Or already love him. Bard signed. I saw that one. Yeah.
DJ, not to burst your bubble on Linus Allmark here, but it sounds like, according to Lance Lysowski of the Buffalo News, because of Swayman and Vladar, they're not going to be able to meet Allmark's asking price.
Ooh. Well,
He priced himself out.
run it back, Tuca. Run it back. And let me do non-Bostonians know about the Tuukka Rask Boston experience where everybody in Boston hates Tuukka Rask for some reason?
Joe Haggerty has like a special vendetta against Tuukka Rask.
they blame the fact that the Bruins haven't won more than one cup in the last 10 plus years on Tuukka Rask, which is
What?
very, very silly and very frustrating. Like when
Blame it
Carey
on the entire first line that basically got switched down to the second line when they lost against the Blues. Because
right.
where were you?
Oh my God. Oh, so that game, people say that they're like, yeah, Tuukka Rask was great until game 7, and then what happens? And I'm like, you don't score a goal until the third period and when the game's over? And they're like, no, wrong. Tuukka let in a goal in the first period, and that's when it was over. I'm like, okay.
Oh, sure. Yeah, no, except your leading scorer is getting dropped down or scratched. That was embarrassing. And I have it saved on my computer. I put an overlay of Brad Marchand crying with the background, all the explosives going off in the background, and he's just sitting there, and it's this beautiful fireworks going off, and he's crying.
Rude.
Maria playing over it. Oh, it's beautiful.
Rude. Not Brad Marchand's best game though. When he
no, not his
went
best.
for a change while the Blues were on the rush.
His own head or whatever. His head was in his head.
Was Tuukka on the team when you guys won the cup? Was he backing up Timmy?
Yeah, he was the backup. And then in 2013, he in the Eastern Conference Finals against the Penguins with Crosby, Malkin, they had a Ginla that year. They were loaded. In 4 games, one of which went to double overtime, Tuukka Rask allowed 2 goals in that entire series. And then they lost to a better team in the Blackhawks. But everybody was like, oh, Tuukka can't get done in the playoffs. It's infuriating. I've had so many meltdowns over it.
Yeah, and then he left the bubble last year too. So like can't get it done in the playoffs.
Oh man, that was a tough scene. That was me and all the other Tuukka defenders got crushed for that because he was golfing a couple days later in Boston. Oof. Yeah.
That's tough.
But he went home. He went home because his daughter had a medical emergency, and he was like, "All right, I'm not doing this." Like
people were so mad. They're like, "Oh, I can't believe he's bailing on the Bruins." Well,
yeah,
he was in the hospital, bro. Like
right. What? And then like his daughter apparently like ended up being okay, and everyone's like, "The daughter ended up being okay." And I'm like, dude, if you are trapped in this place where no one wants to be, where no one is having a good time,
people were upset that she was fine, and they were like,
"Right,
well, it wasn't wow." People in Boston, man, you guys are
right.
Just
but it's like if you're having that bad a time, wouldn't it take any small little thing, or let's say a huge thing, such as like your daughter's having a medical emergency, for you to be like, all right, forget this. Like, no, we're not doing this. Bye.
Whatever.
Let's just kick it out. Let's just kick it out really quick with Seattle. The Jaden Schwartz deal is all but done at this point. I believe they're in talks with a couple of teams for Vince Dunn. I do think they're going to flip Vince Dunn, or it looks likely in the next couple hours that they flip Vince Dunn.
Did they flip Hyman?
No, Hyman.
Edmonton.
Yeah, so I feel like they didn't have a lot of big names that they drafted in the first place, and now they're just doing a lot of shuffling.
I mean, when you can give Jamie Alexiak that contract, you got to get rid of Vince Dunn, right?
Northeastern Husky, baby. I'll reset the whole show here. We are looking at NHL Free Agency Live, presented by Washed Media, NRD, DJ Bean, Jimmy Collins from Morning State, and Tara from the Glove Drop. Having a blast here, guys. Thank you for being here. A couple big names still out there. The goalie market still has Allmark, Dubnyk, Grubauer, Kemper's out there. Defense market kind of sucks at this point. But forwards, Danault, Saad, Hoffman, Cizikas, Krejci, Ritchie, Suter, Janmark, Thomas Tatar is going to score 20-something goals for somebody next year. Who knows what's going on? NRD, anything going on in your plums over there that you're feeling?
Oh no, signed, boys.
Who?
Suter. Stars.
Yeah, Suter. Yep.
Excuse me, the other Suter, Pius Suter.
Pius Suter.
He's already signed.
Besides the aforementioned Jaden Schwartz deal I just mentioned, we're looking at Vince Dunn potentially on the move here. A couple teams out east looking at him. I do think Seattle's going to flip him at some point here. And then we're all going to turn our attention to Jack Eichel tonight into tomorrow, right? The Philip Danault market's bottlenecked up right now because of what's going on with Jack Eichel. I don't believe Vegas is out of it. I don't believe the New York Rangers are out of it by any means. I don't think the New York Rangers were ever out of it at any point. As I said yesterday on Twitter, Chris Drury doesn't want to go over a certain price, and the beauty of it is Buffalo doesn't have to tango with them if they don't want to work in Drury's wheelhouse, but I don't think that means the New York Rangers are out of it. Other than that, Montreal, I don't think was a real player in it at any point. We're looking out west. So Vegas, California teams, the Rangers at this point, if you believe what Michael Russo said about the Minnesota Wild being out, which I do.
Yeah, I think Guerin finally said enough's enough, and here's our offer, and that's it. That's it. They don't want to give up Rossi, Boldy, Greenway, and a first, or some combination of Rossi, Boldy, and Addison. Then he's not gonna take the whole farm out for a Jack Eichel. They just signed Freddie Gaudreau too, so that takes another 1.7 of cap hit in a year. Will it be fine? But next year and the year after, they're toast based on their buyouts. You guys see the last night there was a rumored ask from Jack Eichel out there with Vegas. That ask was Peyton Krebs, Riley Smith, Nick Hague, and a first-round pick, which I cannot imagine that is the
Yeah.
Right, that
Get
seemed
away
like a
from it.
lie to me.
I didn't
Right.
comment on it because I don't like dabbling up in other people's reports. I don't like starting Twitter feuds like that. But at the end of the day, if that was the ass, that deal would have got done. And it doesn't align with what we know Buffalo's looking for in a trade,
Correct.
right? Like, we all know it's going to be a pick and prospect heavy deal with maybe a contract or two going back the other way because of salary cap and contract limitations. But that deal from Vegas just doesn't align with anything we've heard out of Buffalo. It doesn't align with anything we've heard out of Vegas. And if Vegas is in play, and if Buffalo's looking at a deal with Vegas, I don't know how Pavel Dorofeyev is not in that deal. Former second-round pick who's currently with SKA St. Petersburg of the KHL. Really good center prospect over in Russia. And seems like Buffalo's gearing up on the Russians there. Kula's stocking up on his Russians in Buffalo. So that makes a lot of sense. And he's a great prospect that Vegas has in the system. And Nikita Morozov, I believe, is also in Vegas. He's another second-round center in play. Another KHL player. So those are the names you're looking at in a Vegas deal, in addition to Peyton Krebs, who's their top prospect, undisputed now with the Cody Glass trade. That purported deal yesterday, I'm not buying.
I'm with you, NRD. I like the Sabres turnaround on Russians is nothing short of a miracle, if you'll allow a Cold War pun on this broadcast. But
Got it.
Good one.
given their
Very
ownership.
cool.
The other player that I've heard in that deal is going to be Alex Tuck if it happens. He is a upstate New York kid, kind of western. It's Baldwinsville, so we're getting central New York, western New York lines there. But that's a contract I've heard, as well as Eriksson. So we'll see what happens with Vegas. I think they're still in, but they keep signing people. So who knows? They just signed Sven Berchi. I don't even know if I'm saying that right. Sven Berchi two-way deal. So
Is Jack Eichel healthy?
yeah. Well,
Yes.
no, but he will be. He will be once he gets surgery.
But is that the surgery that everybody was pushing for him not to get because it's up in the air?
They have softened from total disc replacement to just a fusion, like the Peyton Manning, Tiger Woods surgery.
Okay. Because I mean, before when he was pushing to have this surgery and the athletic training staff and the organization was like, please don't, because there's quite a huge chance that one, it won't work, two, your hockey career will be over forever. I mean, if that was the case, it would just that would make the whole Jack Eichel movement come to a screeching halt, because I wouldn't want to.
It's important to note that disc fusion surgery won Tiger a Masters and Peyton a Super Bowl. So
yeah, I'll take that.
All right,
yeah,
I'll take the.
We're not out of the hope for Jack Eichel being healthy. I think he's going to end up being all right. I don't think it's as much of a risk at this point.
Cool.
And Buffalo hasn't revealed their hasn't clued teams in on the medical situation. But if you don't think that all these team doctors have a pretty good idea based on what's out there publicly of what Eichel's medical situation is, in addition to the fact that Chris Drury and Jack Eichel share an agent, you're fooling yourselves. I know it's tampering and we don't like to talk about it. It's taboo in the National Hockey League, but I think most teams, if not all of them, have a pretty good idea of Jack Eichel's medical situation, regardless of Buffalo putting his medicals out there.
Yeah, I think Mr. Fish has a copy or two that he's shooting around.
Peter Fish, great man.
Yeah, I liked him. I liked how he finally said, you know what, Kevin Adams, I don't care what you're saying. We expect Jack to be traded in the near future. He's fed up. So he took that out there when Kevin Adams said, "Oh yeah, I wouldn't hate if Jack was here next year. I think he's skating, right? Anybody confirm that?" And it was just brutal trying to leverage any last bit they can. And here we are waiting, and we'll see. I think somebody mentioned Jack was in LA or in Vegas. I saw one of those tweets flying around. I don't think that has any impact on where he goes, but I guess
It would be strange if an NHL player wasn't in Vegas in the offseason.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, when the roster freeze opened, I think he was at a Yankee Red Sox game. People are like, "Oh, Yankees, Rangers, let's go." Didn't happen.
I knew something was up when Jack, and I had been on team like don't trade Jack because he's fucking Jack Eichel, right? When he finally was out of the lineup because of the neck, and he went to get a second opinion, and he flew commercial to get a second opinion.
Yeah.
And himself or Pagula didn't pony up for a jet to Vail to go to their doctors out there. I was like, well, we're done. That's over. He just had to fly
Spirit
commercial.
Airlines commercial.
Yeah. He just had to fly commercial to go get a second opinion because they said, our doctors are good enough. If you want a second opinion, we'll buy you a first-class ticket on fucking United.
Spirit.
No, he was probably Southwest in like Group D. They didn't care.
The picture was funny. He's like headphones on, hoodie on. He's like, fuck this place.
All right, well, good to know. That way I feel a little bit better if Jury, since they have the same agent, pull some strings. I wouldn't hate him. That could make the sting of the Booch trade feel a little bit better.
I think we kind of touched on it a little bit, but let's say, like, when is Jack Eichel going to play hockey again? Because it's not going to be at the beginning of the year. I wouldn't think. Like, this is probably like a decent rehab from that.
I think 3 months is sort of from day one of surgery to like skating and potentially playing. I think 3 months is sort of the agreed upon.
Isn't that crazy that you can get something like fused in your neck and then 3 months later you're ready to go? Technology, man. Crazy.
All right. Laparoscopic. When is the surgery supposed to be taking place? Clearly not right now if he's in Vegas.
Good question. Yeah, good question. I think that's
a big issue.
Yeah.
That's going to be whatever team signs him is going to make that decision immediately, or not sign trades for him
sooner rather than later. Because the season starts second week in October, I believe.
I can't wait.
I'm gonna want this kid on the skates.
I'm not sure what the schedule is this year officially.
I was gonna say, like, are they back to normal?
Yeah, second week in October. As if I don't know the exact days until the season starts.
Yeah.
Come on.
Hold down the fort, guys. I gotta use the bathroom real quick. I'll be right back.
Attaboy.
There we go. Where are you guys from?
Upstate New York.
Boston, Massachusetts.
Word. Long Island.
There's a cave underneath Gary Bettman's office. I haven't left there in weeks. Somebody please send help.
I was gonna say, we're not even getting a face out of dude. There's no way he's telling us where he is.
There's a cave right below Gary Bettman's office. I've been chilling here for a couple of years now.
All right, so New York then.
Well, yeah.
Send help.
Yeah.
Really quick, Mike Hoffman, just kind of keep the conversation going. He's not going to sign today from what I'm told. It seems like he's mulling over some things. So we're patient on Hoffman. Montreal, Vegas as a fallback option. They were in on Hoffman at the deadline. I think they're still in play for him if the Eichel thing doesn't work out with Vegas. St. Louis would like to bring him back, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think if anything, St. Louis goes Brendan Saad. So
another guy who hasn't had a home in a while. Like, I feel like he bounces around quite often.
Hoffman,
and he scores a ton of goals.
Yeah, I would just
around like Shattenkirk.
Patient on Hoffman. So we'll see what happens in the coming days.
Still nothing on. What's Vegas looking at as far as goaltending going now?
They signed who they signed just
I didn't see that one coming. I thought Vegas
Laurent Brassard. Yeah, they signed Laurent Brassard. Brassard.
Whatever his name is.
Contract.
Yeah,
Apparently Aaron Rodgers is going off right now. Not to turn anyone's attention away from hockey.
Aaron Rodgers is going off about what?
Like
life.
Everything. Yeah. I guess his relationship with the Packers. I'm trying to lightly monitor it, but it's just distracting me from the hockey. But Folks in the chat, let us know.
Thoughts on
What's Aaron Rodgers saying?
You know what? While we wait for OMB, the man formerly known as OMB, to get back here, if you guys want to chat in some questions, hashtag AskNRD. I'll try to answer what I can. I'll send some texts out. I'll see if I can get back to you guys in a little bit, but I want to see them in the chat. Send in your questions for NRD.
I like that.
I definitely like that because it seems we've hit sort of
Hit a little bit of a lull in action.
well, speaking of now signs pointing to Seattle Kraken making some traction on Grubauer, according to Kevin Weeks.
What?
That makes no sense.
What?
So
Okay.
they're gonna,
Wait,
And
that was
Grubauer.
from Weeks?
They would have
Weeks,
to flip one of the goalies that they've gone because they have a pretty decent tandem.
And Grubauer would be, I mean, everybody was hoping they're pulling that they were going to take Price, but yeah, I get it. Price is getting a little older or whatever. Grubauer would be a big move. That would be.
Drieger's not making that much though, right? Drieger's making
Drieger's
like
3.2 or
3.5.
3.5. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's tandemable.
All right, first question, AskNRD. Pius Suter. I've heard Boston in play. They still haven't brought back Nick Ritchie yet. That wasn't confirmed. I know there's a report from the Boston Globe that Nick Ritchie was coming back to Boston despite not qualifying him. I've heard the Pius Suter and Boston link over the past couple hours. Georgiev in a trade. Yeah, that's true if you listen to Larry Brooks of the New York Post. Not a formal trade request, but a proposition to send him to a place where he could become a number one goalie somewhere.
Buffalo.
Yeah, it's an option, especially in an Eichel deal. I think there's a goalie component to that. There was at some point with Minnesota as well when they were talking. I think Kaapo Kakkonen, because he didn't get taken by Seattle. I think that was a component they were discussing at one point. Any terms on Palmieri? No, nothing. Sorry, Brett. I'm doing your job. I'm just rapid firing from the chat right now.
Do it. Go for it.
What on Palmieri?
Terms.
Oh, yeah.
AAV, and nothing yet. Lou's working on the Cizikas deal right now. There's your Islanders tip, which Cizikas will be taking a hometown discount to stay on the island. I've heard he can get upwards of 5, maybe 5.5 on the open market from some teams. I know that's a whopping contract, but look what Coleman just got. The Barclay Goodrow contract absolutely reset the market for bottom 6 forwards, especially ones that can play center in the National Hockey League. Any further info on the Columbus Blue Jackets goaltending situation? Korpisalo back in the market. Things obviously quieted down with the the tragic loss of how you pronounce his name. I don't want to butcher his name out of respect. If anybody wants to jump in.
Lennox?
Kip Lennox, yep. Things quieted down there. They're still going to have to move a goalie at some point, but I'll talk about Korpisalo being the guy that got moved, tampered a little bit after that tragically happened. What else we got here? Rumors were that the Bruins and Kraken were talking about a defenseman a day ago. Could they be involved in Dunn? Absolutely. I think there's multiple teams, as I just said, out east, kicking around with Seattle on Vince Dunn. I don't know if there's a destination in mind yet, but I still believe he does get flipped here in the next couple of days. Off a sheet on Elias Pettersson. I think every GM that has an RFA on the market expects an offer sheet. I don't think they ever come in because GMs are pansies and they don't want to do it. But if any team does it, I think it makes a ton of sense for Seattle to do it. They have the picks. They have the cap space. They could really stick it to their new geographical rival in Vancouver. And really, any team that should be in on Eichel should consider an Elias Pettersson offer sheet, especially if the Eichel price is looking like it's 4 first-round assets. I'd rather just give up the 4 first-round picks and a gigantic offer sheet for Pettersson. They're lottery tickets. You don't know what Vancouver will do with them. It's not like you're giving up any guaranteed assets. So should we be on watch? Probably not. Should it happen? Absolutely. Update on Tarasenko. New Jersey was there. The Islanders were there. I do believe the Rangers kicked tires on it, but it's just not going to fit. They don't want to make that happen. The Boots trade was their big deal with St. Louis. I still think LA is in play for Tarasenko. We'll take one more. Oh, Luke Shen to the Canucks. Somebody just said in the chat. We confirmed that. That was a big NRD bomb on the Trade Melt show the other day. Anything else? Let's wrap it up with one more question. I'll see. Let me comb through here. Something that we haven't already talked about so far on the show today.
I will. So Kevin Monahan made a good point. He asked NRD. This may be for DJ more. What's the deal with Andre Kasha, and is there any traction on him coming back?
Yeah, take that one, DJ.
They didn't qualify him. Sweeney said they were going to, and I had a heart attack when he said that because they would have had to have qualified him at $2.6 million. People think incorrectly that he was like part of the this David Backes trade where it was like, we'll trade you David Backes for Andre Kasha. That's not what happened. It was, we will give you a first-round pick to take David Backes, and then Andre Kasha is a throw-in. He obviously hasn't worked out in Boston because he hasn't been healthy. So I don't feel there should be any allegiance towards having to stick with him and like, or that it would be a bad look if you got rid of him after a couple of years. This is the same team that didn't qualify Brett Conley, and then he left and was like actually good because Brett Conley seemed like a useful player. Kasha seems easier to just offer him $800,000, and if you don't want it, then good luck. Go ahead, and if you come back, then you can be a spare part who competes for a job on the third line. But Sweeney made it all confusing when he said they were qualifying him in the first place because they didn't end up doing that. I would not make him a priority. I also wouldn't make Nick Ritchie a priority, though, and they didn't qualify him either.
Interesting.
Nick Ritchie, I think, is one of the bigger buyer beware candidates out there, and the fact that he hasn't signed yet speaks to that teams understand that.
I just this just popped up. They finished up just the Brayden Point contract. That's all set up 7 years, 63 mil. Brayden Point.
It's not bad.
Good for Brayden Point.
What is it?
7 year is 63 mil. Is what I'm looking for. 8 years. 8 years, 63.
Brett,
So
your
it's-
boy Carter Hutton's going to the Coyotes, dude.
So that's a
you know what, Jimmy?
7.8 AAV.
Jimmy, that says to me that the Coyotes want to lose every game by 6 goals.
Oh, I'm not a Carter Hutton guy.
That is a very much Shane Wright sweepstakes signing right there. Good for
Yeah.
Carter Hutton. He's going to play a lot of golf in Scottsdale. Let up a lot of goals. But Tara, I want to thank you for jumping on.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Where can the people find you? We have another guest from I want to get on the broadcast, and we only have 5 boxes, so I want to.
Oh, yeah, no, totally.
Where can people
You
find
can find me on YouTube. My YouTube channel is called The Glove Job. I don't just cover the Rangers. I just happen to really like them. It's my team. It's also The Glove Drop on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Cover all breaking news, analyze stuff in the NHL. I play myself, so there's usually some funny clips of me screwing that up. But yeah, definitely stoked to have gotten a chance to chat with you guys. NRD, I'm just going to make up ahead what you look like. I'm sticking with it. But yeah, thanks for
Not
having me.
pretty. I told you I've been sitting underneath Gary Bevan's office for years now.
I hope he feeds you.
Well, Tara, thank you very much. We will
Thanks,
have you
Scott.
on again whenever we do one of these streams. Thanks, Tara.
Hell yeah. See you later, guys. Have a good one.
See ya.
Happy free agency.
Absolutely.
Greg McKinnon, 1 year.
And then Adam just switched it right in. Lance, we have Lance Lasowski from the Buffalo News. We're talking some Eichel. We're talking, we're just talking all over the place. How are we doing, Lance?
Doing well. Just keeping busy, monitoring the phone, text, emails, phone calls, that sort of thing.
Lance, we just saw Carter Hutton go to the Arizona Coyotes. Does that stream they want Shane Wright more than the Buffalo Sabres by goals against average?
I thought that the Sabres might circle back on Hutton. They're running out of options in goal. Hutton would have been open to coming back to Buffalo, but there was never a serious offer there. And now, hey, he'll get some playing time there. We'll see how much, depending on what the Coyotes do with their goalie situation.
It would appear that Marty Biron needs to lace up the skates based on the Buffalo Sabres goalies at this point. So what do you see happening over the next few hours here in Buffalo?
Well, as the Sabres are running out of options, so is Linus Ullmark. There's only, 2 real starting jobs available right now, Colorado and Buffalo. Colorado, I don't see them wanting to give Linus Ullmark the reported $6 million that he wants. What the Sabres have is they can give him the term. They can give him the dollar amount. I think they're just trying to settle on the term. Ullmark won 6 years. The Sabres shouldn't go that route. 6 is a lot considering his injury history the last 2 years. He's their top target, but really they're sort of in a holding pattern now because if you don't sign Ullmark, what do? They're going to have to go through the trade market because now it's slim pickings in free agency.
It's as slim as it gets at this point. Grubauer's just been rumored to Seattle and also Colorado if Seattle isn't like re-signing in Colorado. And then Linus is coming home for whatever we end up paying him. So we'll see what happens. Real quick, Ian Cole, a defenseman that's been on the market going to Carolina, 1 year, $2.9 million. that takes another name off the also equally thin defenseman market. So things are coming down to, you're getting down to the bottom of the barrel here, except for forwards. Forward market still has some options for sure.
Another
Fan favorite
non-Dougie
Greg
Hamilton
Fan favorite
defenseman
Greg
signing in
McKegg.
Carolina.
What's the McKegg news?
Fan favorite Greg McKegg back in New York with the Rangers on a 2-way deal.
Wow.
Big news.
Big news. Lance, while we have you here, if you could, if you were a betting man on horses, what horses in the Jack Eichel sweepstakes are you thinking here?
I think Vegas is at the front of the line right now. It's pretty clear that what they're doing with the Dadonov trades is give them another option on the wing in case they have to trade one of their wings and a deal with Jack Eichel. They're running into a salary cap problem. They overpaid for a backup goalie. I think they should have gone for a cheaper option, although I like Laurent Brissot and the numbers that he's put up in Winnipeg, but he's played in front of behind a good team. 2.5 is a little bit too much, in my opinion. They're going to have to move salary to Buffalo. And the Sabres, I mean, we've heard Kevin Adams say it. They don't want to add players that take ice time away from the young guys. They want Cousins and Middlestad to get as much run as they possibly can. If they add a player in an Eichel deal, it's got to be somebody like, Alex Tuck, who can actually stick around for a few years and be part of the future, as opposed to, I know people were saying Riley Smith. Riley Smith makes no sense for the Sabres. He's on an expiring deal. Unless they want to flip him to somebody else, that just does not make any sense to me whatsoever.
Yeah, Riley Smith would come here, put up 42 points, get flipped at the trade deadline for a second, and that's the career of Riley Smith as a Buffalo Sabre.
You have to be careful. I mean, they want to get people in here who want to be in Buffalo. I know there's not many people who want to be in Buffalo right now, but if you had a guy like Smith who's been on a contender for a few years, you think he's really going to come here and be in a good mood? You don't want that in your locker room. So you got to be really careful at making an Eichel trade to get the wrong type of, not like Riley Smith's a bad guy, but who would blame him if he came in bitter? And you just don't want that when you're trying to build a new culture in that room, which they desperately need to do after the last few years.
Toronto boy, though.
Toronto boy, but there's a lot of Toronto boys in the NHL, right?
They don't like Buffalo.
No, I mean,
yeah, they like Buffalo. They don't like the Sabres. Fair.
That only gets you so far if you're a competitive team. But the Sabres aren't going to be good for 3 or 4 years realistically. This isn't as bad as the tank back in 2014 and 15 because they have Cousins, Middlestad, Dahlin. There's pieces there, but that's going to be a mostly empty arena aside from visiting fans. And if you're a guy like Smith, you're chasing a cup, and you're not going to do that in Buffalo.
That's my biggest fear with Buffalo is that they have just enough, and the young kids are kind of stepping into their own a little bit, especially like the Dahlin, Middlestat, Yoki Harju crew, Anders Bjork, that they're good enough that they ended up picking like 6th next year, and kind of just the cycle continues to move on in the same way it has been, as they picked 7th or 8th the last 4 of the last 6 years in between first overall picks.
No, that's a good point. And they have to learn from their mistakes in the past. Like Eichel and Reinhart, don't blame them. They got jaded going through all that losing over the years. You don't want the same thing to happen to Middlestad, Cousins, and Dahlin. So at some point, you have to try to field a winning team. And it's clear they're not going to try to do that this year. But come on, you got to do it sometime soon. And if they screw up the Eichel trade, it's just going to make the situation a lot more difficult to navigate in the next couple of years.
The biggest question I have is they're going to need to hit the cap floor, Lance. And at what point do they just need to pay some dude $10 million? Like, they're going to have to get there. I don't know how you get there with just your RFA signings. That's why I was saying before, I wouldn't be surprised if Terry Pegula is calling the NHL office and saying, hey, what's the penalty if I don't hit this cap floor? I'll give you some time on my yacht.
Well, realistically, if they trade Eichel, they're going to try to sign Dahlin to a long-term extension. Plus, they're probably going to try to give Yoki Harju and Middlestad bridge deals of some sort. I don't know if they're ready for long-term, but that's a couple $1 million there. Allmark $6 million. It's eventually going to add up. Plus, they're going to bring salary back into an Eichel trade. I mean, that's what makes this such a difficult move, because what team is going to be able to take on a $10 million contract right now without giving out something in return? That's what makes it so difficult for Minnesota. There's a lot of teams that want Eichel, but in terms of assets and cap space, it's a really tricky trade to pull off. That's why the Wild, to me, never made the most sense, because they're in a really tough spot after buying out Parise and Suter.
Especially that this year, maybe the next couple of years, I don't know how they make that work. But we do have a Rangers fan in here. Any traction continuing on Eichel and New York? I never really left, but where would you put that thermometer right now, Lance?
I would say they're still alive, but Rangers fans will tell me that none of their prospects are touchable in a trade. You guys don't want to part with anybody. Maybe that's why you signed Greg McKegg. You could flip him to Buffalo for Jack Eichel, right? No, if the Rangers are realistic, they can make a trade work. I mean, I know that people think that they have to move Zibanejad, but I think that there's a way to do that without moving a player like that. And again, Zibanejad has some no move in his deal, so that's another one that good luck to getting him to waive that one. They got to do something, right? Because apparently Panarin is upset that Buchnevich got traded, which that deal still doesn't make any sense to me when you overpaid Gaudreau, but that's just my opinion.
I have a question for you, Lance. I'm just going to shoot really quick.
Yeah.
I know we both heard similar things about William Eklund. Are you surprised that Buffalo did not come back up with the 13th pick to make a play for him as he started to fall to number 7? Because I know Owen Power at the end of the day was probably going to be the guy at 1, but there definitely was a debate in the room, and Buffalo loved the kid. So does that surprise you at all?
They tried, but Anaheim didn't want to move that pick. That was the one team that wanted to, and you were going to have to get up in the top 3 to top 5. Columbus is in the middle of a rebuild. They weren't ready to trade number 5. If anything, you might be surprised, but more teams are trying to move into the top 10 than move out. We kept hearing this draft wasn't as good as people thought it might be, but it was pretty solid. They still ended up with 2 good players in the first round. But the fact is, I'm just surprised that Anaheim hasn't been more involved in the Eichel sweepstakes. Murray's got to be on the hot seat as a general manager. They got to win something at some point again, right? I mean, I know you got a lot of young pieces you don't want to move, but come on, you have an opportunity to land a top, 15 center in the National Hockey League. You're not going to be able to do that. Top 10 when he's healthy.
They're sitting on a ton of assets. It's just a matter of
for no reason. But
there's multiple iterations of that Eichel deal, right? That would have made sense, right? Whether it was 3, whether it was Drysdale. I know Zagreus is probably a moot point at this, at this time. I just don't think that Murray wants to move Zagreus, but like Drysdale on 3 absolutely probably would have gotten it done. I say probably, but they would have gotten it done, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, the Sabres weren't budging on Zegras, though. They wanted him. I mean, you can't get rid of Jack Eichel and not get another center in that deal, especially with that sort of upside. And that's, credit to Kevin Adams. He's not budging. Like, you're not going to sell low on Jack Eichel. If you have to stand pat, you stand pat, no matter how angry Jack Eichel and his agent get.
No, absolutely. And I think that's a really important thing that a lot of people on Twitter don't understand, that Buffalo still has a ton of leverage here. The only time Buffalo loses leverage in sole situation is if we're here on July 1st, 2022. That's what, and Eichel's still Sabre and he wants out. That's the only point where Kevin Adams doesn't have any leverage left. At this point, Adams is sticking to his guns.
Yeah, so, I understand why Eichel's upset. I know that he's particularly upset that the timeline of his surgery is going to impact him from possibly competing in the Olympics. That's something he's wanted to do for a long time, his whole life. So if he misses out on that because of the Sabres, that's not going over well. But the fact is, his agent has made this more difficult, continuing to give information to Elliot Friedman, including details on the possible surgery, only sort of steers the discourse, and it really gives other general managers leverage in negotiations against Buffalo when Eichel and his camp should really be rooting for a trade instead of sort of getting in the way here, which they seriously did hurt themselves a little bit by giving too many details out to the media.
Pierre Lebrun says, further to what Kevin Weeks first reported, hearing the Kraken are close to signing Philip Grubauer.
Another one off the market, which means Linus Ullmark's going to be a Colorado Avalanche, and me and Lance are playing goalie for the Buffalo Sabres next year. I mean, the Sabres have had 8 months to figure this out.
And they should have done this last offseason, right? They went into last season with questions on goal as well when the market was also there, and they had a much better chance at signing a free agent last offseason when they still had Eichel, Reinhart, and they were adding Taylor Hall. So they're going to have to go to the trade market. They really are. Even if they add Ullmark, you need a second goalie, unless you're going to force Dustin Tokarski to be your backup and then sign somebody for Rochester, which good luck with that scenario.
Yeah, well, I guess now you have Vitek Vanacek on the market. Vanacek in Seattle. That's a guy that he played well last year for was the Capitals. Yeah, I mean,
and that's a team that will be calling the Sabres about Eichel. they're going to try to move a goaltender. They have a first round. They've got draft picks. They don't have the young prospects, but they're going to try to take advantage of the fact that Buffalo's might be getting desperate here in the next couple of weeks because they're going to need a top line center. If they miss out on Thanall, who's going to center the Kraken's top line?
They need somebody. They need bodies up front. That's why Max Domi would have made a ton of sense for them to take him, even if the surgery or his shoulder issues didn't come back completely clean, or even if they had to flip him at the deadline. They just need somebody up front. And, like you said, something to watch, I guess. But I don't understand this whole Grubauer thing, right? Because Vanacek has to get moved now, right? Do we all agree on that?
Oh,
Vanacek was too good, and you're not stashing him in the AHL in Palm Springs. He has to move. So
sure.
I guess it does bring in a ton of teams to the table on Vanacek.
Just a couple real quick notes. We have Jujhar Khaira to the Blackhawks. We have Brock McGinn to the Penguins. And I thought we had one more. Just those two for now. And then Grubauer, obviously.
Big save. Dave went to Nashville.
Dave Riddick officially in Nashville.
Weren't their Blackhawks supposed to be rebuilding, and then all of a sudden, never mind.
The Blackhawks just turned off the rebuild faucet. I don't know if they could deal with a PR nightmare and a rebuild all at once. So they decided to take care of one of them while totally ignoring the other.
I absolutely agree with you there. This has that written all over it.
They're definitely way better right now than they were at the end of the year. I mean, if Marc-Andre Fleury ends up going there, then you got Seth Jones, and I'm hoping Jonathan Taves comes back early next year. They finally kind of released something on him. Everybody, that was bananas, by the way. Jonathan Taves just going away and then getting absolutely zero update throughout the entire course of the year. And then you never see that. Like normally there's like an inkling of something that comes out. But I mean, the game's better when Jonathan Taves is playing. I love the way that guy plays. So I don't know. We'll see.
And it's a good example of what Seattle was going to do with the cap space, right? Because Chicago kind of got themselves an early ticket out of this rebuild by teams saying, listen, you have the space. Could we dump these valuable players with high contracts on you? And they said, sure. And then they used their assets to grab Seth Jones. And now they're out of the rebuild a lot quicker than we thought they were going to be. So cap space is king in the National Hockey League. You saw Ron Francis do it. But Chicago's living proof of having that space available for teams to dump decent players on overpriced deals. You're in play.
Somebody asked if Vince Dunn could go to the Bruins. I'd say 0.01%. They've just loaded up on mediocre defensemen on the left side. So even if they fancied Vince Dunn, there just isn't room for him right now.
DJ, the Bruins have to lead the league in defensemen making between $3 and $4 million. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right now.
It's such a weird, and I wonder if the average hockey fan could name 3 of them. Probably not.
Probably not.
But like, even if I'm Mike Riley and I see that Derek Forbert just got an identical contract to what I just signed, I'd be like, what? Should I have just waited a day then? Like, why? How does that end up happening? The Bruins, though, whenever you think they're going to be particularly bad defensively, they just aren't. Like, they do make do a lot with okay defensemen. And like I was saying, like Tenorti was good in Boston. Mike Riley came here and was better. But they also always find themselves in a situation like they were in last year against the Islanders where it's like, okay, well, you have so many mediocre guys that you are one injury away from the whole thing falling apart. Brandon Carlo gets hurt in game 3, game 4, whatever it was. And it's like, okay, clearly season over now. So Charlie McAvoy is going to get so much money next year because he's the only surefire stud they have back there.
Yeah, they don't have the top pairing guy. A good group overall, but I guess they think they can skate by because they always have the puck against most teams.
Right.
But you're going to have trouble when you're playing the Islanders, who it's a puck possession game. And if you're on your heels and you don't have, those defensemen to help you in matchups, you're going to be in a tough spot.
And they were supposedly in on Alexiak too, which really confused me because that I think was a bad contract for the Kraken. But yeah, apparently they have a type. I mean, obviously they loved them some Kevin Miller. They always made sure Kevin Miller never made it to market. So They have a type, and it's different from what I would say is most teams and most people's type. But God bless them.
Grubauer to Seattle is done. 6 years, $5.9 million AAV.
So that should set the Allmark price, and they should be on the phone immediately.
There's the 6 I mentioned earlier. I knew it was going to come in that high. That's high for Grubauer, but I can understand why Colorado wasn't bringing him back now.
Yeah. So now if Grubauer's 6, basically 6 for 6, and Allmark's camp is like, okay, we wanted 6 from Buffalo. Kevin Adams just has to say, listen, you where are your Vezina votes? Or where you don't have that juice. And then Allmark, if another team's going to give it to him, great. But this basically locks Buffalo into one guy, or you trade for Vanacek or Kemper if he's still out there. Or you pick up Dubnyk for scraps.
Yeah, or Khudobin from Dallas. Dallas has to move 1 or 2 goalies because they have 4 on their roster now. I don't know why they signed Holtby, but hey, all the power to them.
I think Sean Shapiro of The Athletic mentioned something about some questions regarding Bishop's ability to play. Period.
Okay.
At all. So, I agree with you. They have to move a goalie, but that's only if Bishop's able to play. They have to move a goalie. Obviously, if he's done, it changes things.
Yeah, I mean, the Sabres like both of those guys. They like Khudobin, they like Vanacek. So, I mean, they can try. But, again, I don't know if they're interested in moving futures with the way their situation is right now. They're being pretty stingy in that regard.
Not for goaltenders either, especially because there's so many on the market this year.
Yeah.
Someone asked, will the Bruins go after a top 6 right D? They also don't need that because McAvoy is obviously a stud, and Carlo, as long as he's healthy, is a very solid second pairing defenseman.
He got a good deal too, Carlo.
Yeah, 4.1. I mean, the term's a little dicey, but that can always that's what LTIR is for.
Yeah, if he can stay healthy, that's a pretty good deal for a guy who's going to get top 4 minutes and has the ability to shut people down.
Yeah. Like he won't electrocute you, but he is a very steady, solid second pairing guy. And then Clifton, I think most people, I assumed that the Kraken were going to take Clifton. They took Lozon instead. So the Bruins are okay on the right side. It's more the left side where it's very underwhelming.
Cliffy hockey, man.
Elliot Friedman says to watch Washington in reacquiring Vitek Vanacek from the Kraken.
Yeah.
If they desired. So I didn't know. See, now this is where I was a little confused whether it was allowed or not. I think it was with the Carey Price situation. Many people are talking about Seattle taking him and flipping back to Montreal, but I think that had to do with the fact that there was a no movement clause waived and then salary being retained to flipping back to Montreal. If the Kraken decided to just trade Vanacek straight up, no salary retention or anything like that, that I believe is allowed. So just because I know people are going to ask, is that allowed? So yeah.
Jake McCabe got a 4-year, $4 million contract.
Wow, good for Jake, man.
Jeez. I feel like this is the free agent frenzy to be a defenseman, man. They're getting paid.
The defense trade market, or the market for defensemen in general, is insane. Forwards I don't think has been the same. You see Reinhart and Buchnevich getting underwhelming returns for their trades and prices, but goalies and defensemen right now, it's a good time to be one of them. I'll put it that way.
Hamilton, meanwhile.
What's that, TJ?
Crickets on Hamilton, which is interesting.
Yeah, I wonder what the 99 or 1 yard line, excuse me. What's the final? Maybe it's a NTC, whether it's 10 or 15 or whatever.
Do you give
usually what it is?
Do you give the ball to Marshawn Lynch or do you throw it?
You give the ball.
I mean, you have to throw it. They're expecting the run, right? You have to throw. It'd be too obvious to run.
Lance, I will. We're gonna kind of hop off here. We've been on at this for 2 hours.
Yeah, I got to run. It was fun joining you guys. So
Lance is a busy man. Thanks for joining us, Lance.
Yeah,
Lance, thank you. Where can people find you, Lance?
On Twitter, LLYSOWSKI is my handle, Lance Lasowski. Thanks a lot, guys. Good to join you, Brett. Finally.
Absolutely. Good having you on. Absolutely.
See you guys.
See it.
All right, let's see if we can get this one on the first try here. Oh, there it is.
Yeah, I love that.
Nailed it.
Thank you, Adam. Well, boys, this has been fun. I think we got some good stuff here. Any NRD? I'll start with you. any bold predictions kind of this afternoon that we won't be live for, but something we'll see hopping on Twitter.
I mean, I'll be giving you the latest on Twitter all night and into tomorrow and throughout the offseason. I still think Eichel gets moved sooner than later. I know that's a really shitty prediction, and I know it's a cop-out, and I know people are going to say, oh, it's nothing groundbreaking, but I still think he gets moved. There's too much pent-up demand on the market for a center right now. Eventually, one team is going to blink and sign Philip Deneau. So that should give you a good idea. I think Eichel gets moved sooner than later. It's just not going to happen in the next 30, 40 seconds. We're still doing the show.
Jimmy Collins, what do you think?
Eichel to the Rangers. Strome, I think, is going to go to Vegas. And then, I don't know. We'll see. I'm pumped. Hey, this is fun. Free Agent Frenzy.
Very fun. DJ, you, real quick before we leave?
I think a Dougie Hamilton Boston reunion makes a lot of sense. I'm just kidding. I think that I still think there's a possibility that they actually aren't as in on him as we think, but I think ultimately it's going to be Eichel in Vegas.
There you go.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. Thank you, guys. DJ, Jimmy, NRD, you guys are the best in the business. Thank you to Tara. Thank you to Lance for jumping on. And we'll have to do this again when the season gets closer. It's about to be that time of year where we don't have a lot going on. So
Love this.
can't wait for hockey. Can't wait for the Eichel move, the Eichel return. I'll side with NRD. I think that's probably the next domino to fall. Then we'll see Deneau and Saad and all those guys. So had fun today, boys, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, it's been a good time. See you guys.
See you guys.
Bye, guys.